Yeah. I wanna build a life worth living. I wanna be rich cause I wanna be given. I feel the time keeps ticking. I wish I had more but I'll take what's given. I just wanna pop cause I've been working a lot. I think I deserve a shot, I think I deserve a spot. Cause it's been years on this path that I walked, and if I keep going I pray I'll be at the top. When I dream big, yeah I commit. Wanted this life since I was a little kid. Never thought twice, I just did what I did. Worked towards it and now I have an addiction. I've been living life like a dream, like it's fiction. I've been doing things like I have no restrictions. I don't plan to stop, no I don't plan on quitting. Everything I do, yeah I do it with conviction. I will never give up, I will never give in. Everything I do, yeah I do it with conviction. I've been on a mission, I ain't never quitting. Everything I do, yeah I do it with conviction. I believe in free will. I make choices that lead to what I build. I will never give up, I will never give in. Everything I do, yeah I do it with conviction. Give me a minute, I need to test out my limits. Like I've been ascending to Guinness. I'm breaking records, I'm finished. I feel like I keep on winning. If I don't stop once I'm in it, I'm moving forward, I mentioned. But this is just the beginning. I've learned a lot of lessons, I've had a lot of blessings. My friends know I'm obsessive, they be chilling, I be stressing. But I don't second guess it, I'm loving every second. I see my life progressing, so I spend time investing. When I dream big, yeah I commit. Wanted this life since I was a little kid. Never thought twice, I just did what I did. Worked towards it and now I have an addiction. I've been living life like a dream, like it's fiction. I've been doing things like I have no restrictions. I don't plan to stop, no I don't plan on quitting. Everything I do, yeah I do it with conviction. I will never give up, I will never give in. Everything I do, yeah I do it with conviction. I've been on a mission, I ain't never quitting. Everything I do, yeah I do it with conviction. I believe in free will. I make choices that lead to what I build. I will never give up, I will never give in. Everything I do, yeah I do it with conviction. I work blind, got vision I don't need to see. I'm picking mind over matter, I believe in me. I need to find more hours in the day to breathe. Need to find more power in the way I be. And when my mind turns sour with the painful scenes, I need to scream out loud, I can't stop me. I wanna be the greatest like Rocky. You know I leave them all hating like a hobby. I'm out here making moves like a lobby. And if you ain't with me, it's your loss. See, I got my mind on the facts, I'm a python, grab what I like real fast. Choke until I have everything I attack, everything that I lack, everything that I want, and I see, matter of fact. Cause I'm my own worst enemy. Only if I let it be. I can control anything if I can just think carefully. I control my destiny. Deep up in my mind I manifest it. Every morning I wake up obsessed, and everything I do the best. And deep within my mind you know I'll always manifest it. trust it.
Hello and welcome to my Mind Over Your Matter. My name is Rick, and I'm not going to turn on the cameras right now because it's not time to turn on the cameras. Y'all gonna wait because I have an unveiling. I got the desk all set up for this 2025 Christmas season. It's going to be a great holiday season for all, and the desk is nice. I did a great job. It took me some time to do it, but I'm not going to show it to you yet. Maybe we need more people to come and watch. I know it's Albie's here. I guarantee it's Albie. Hey, Albie. What's up, bro? It's okay, Albie. You got patience. We're going to be unleashing the new 2025 Christmas season desk. The desk has changed. It looks like a beautiful little winter wonderland. I can't wait to unveil it. I can't wait to see it on camera, but I'm not going to turn on the cameras yet. Why not? Because I got to roll up my medicine first. I'm a little behind. This desk took me a little bit of time to do, for sure. It took me some time. You gotta think it out and then come up with a plan and then execute it. And my desk, it has a lot of stuff on it, so things needed to be rearranged, and I was able to accomplish. And I'm very happy with the outcome and how it looks. I can't wait for you guys to see it too. But you guys gotta be patient. And these are for the people that are rewatching too, who are not able to catch the show live, but they come back and they watch. I'm sorry, you can fast forward it. You can fast forward. I don't know what time I'm gonna start or what minute mark I'm gonna start, but I'm gonna roll my medicine first and then turn on the cameras and show you guys the new 2025 Christmas desk. It made me feel so good inside. It is so pretty. I do love Christmas. I do. I like the energy it gives. It could be good energy, and some people it could be really bad energy. Have bad memories, because I have my fair share of bad memories of Christmas, but I try to keep those subdued and not have to bring that energy, because I've had many Christmases that were horrible. Many of them. And I'm okay. I still find a way to put a smile on my face. No matter what. We're in this ride together. Because the last time I checked, we are on the same rock. That rock has not changed. And we gotta live in it together. But we can't get along for some reason. Because people continue to make mistakes every day and kill one another every day. And that's, don't learn from your mistakes. People, they're given a fair chance every day they wake up. And the decisions that you make is like, could be life or death. And sometimes you could just be caught up on it, you know? It's not like you killing someone or maybe someone coming and doing some harm to you. And you could be anywhere, you know? When it's your time to go, you know, what you gonna do? You gonna run away from it? No, it's gonna catch up to you. Death always has a plan and it always wins. So far, death is undefeated. uh, you know what I mean? Death is undefeated. It's like, yeah, I always try to beat that motherfucker. I do. I won a couple of matches against him. Against him, he knows. That motherfucker always tries to come and try to get me. I'm like, no, I still got things to do. I still got things to witness. I gotta take it to my next life, and I gotta let Jesus know what the hell is going on here. Because I'm telling you, once I do die, I'm gonna tell him everything, everything. I'm gonna be his mind over your matter. He's like, man, I'm a great fan of your show, man. I've been watching from above, and let me tell you, you hit it right on point. I've been sleeping this whole damn time. You know, these fucking people have me crazy. They gotta be their own little Jesuses, but they tend to go into the dark side a lot of times. But hopefully they'll find the light. Let's see. Albie, you still here. You're the only one. Look how long it's taken for another person to show up. Let's see how long. How long do you think it's gonna take for another person to show up, Bobby? Let's see if you're any good. Let's see if you could have your guessing. How long would it take for another person to show up? And then they have to say hi in the chat. Okay. So the show's been on for 13 minutes now. How long was it gonna take to get another person? I know I'm in timeout with 20, the 20-minute mark. Okay. That's fair. I would say I'm gonna go with my number 22. I don't know. It's just my number. Oh Lord. It's my master number. I'm sorry. I'm a master number 22. See a lot of stuff 22 with me. But people tend to forget that, you know? They forget, damn, we're talking to a fucking master number guy here, you know? This guy has a lot to say and not a lot of people to listen. But it's okay. They'll listen in the future. I know they do. The future people will never fail me. They'll write stories about me. Hopefully. If not, they could just watch on YouTube. And then make sure you leave a like and subscribe. All right. But I will be getting some more people on here eventually, you know. I'll get more people to come in as guests. You know, the show's going to progress in 2026. It's not going to stay the same. It's definitely going to get better. You know, I'm going to try to get more people to come on and just speak their mind. Okay. I'm almost done rolling up. Damn, is it going to take me 22 minutes to fucking start, like, to light up? I'm pretty sure. I'm telling you, it looks so beautiful. It looks so pretty. I pat myself on the back. I did a great job. I did. I kind of like this. The mystery, like, you can't see me, but you can only hear me. Kind of like a little podcast, and it's only by sound, and you can use your imagination and how the desk is gonna look, and see if it matches in what you're imagining. What I have here present, astral project to my location. You know what my setup looks like. Envision the way the desk is looking, and let's see how close you get. And that goes for everyone, even for the ones who are rewatching. Because I know there's a lot of people rewatch. I'm not losing hope in you guys. 2026 is going to be It's gonna be big for this channel. So it's gonna be am I gonna go all in? Is it gonna be an all in moment? Am I going to have an all in moment? I already got the joint rolled up. It didn't take me no down 22 minutes. You know me. It's like Rick's a master roller here. Right. Oh, I hope Terry comes here tonight. I'm pretty sure he'll come in later tonight. He'll pass through. I gotta ask him something. I just gotta ask Terry something. But it's gonna be cool. I got a good lineup of videos for us to watch tonight. They're videos I have not seen yet, and you're gonna watch it for the first time, hopefully with me. And if you already have seen it, awesome, that's cool. But if you haven't, just enjoy, because I do put a lot of good content that's good input. We have great input here. I've been watching too much Short Circuit. I'm sorry. Input. Oh, who has not seen it? I mean, you can watch it for free on YouTube. I think part 2 you can watch it for free on YouTube. So when he's in New York. Such a great movie. It's one of my favorite movies growing up, actually, was Short Circuit. Short Circuit, there was a couple of movies that I used to love. Batteries Not Included was another good movie of mine that I loved. I used to watch a lot of Gilligan's Island. I'm sorry, that's a show, but I used to watch a lot of it. It just popped in my head, so I had to mention it. But yeah, let's see. We're still one. Albie, you're the one tonight, man. I guess I'm gonna have to unveil it for you then. So we're gonna unveil the dusk in 20 minutes because Albie put 20 minutes. So we got a minute and a half before unveiling the dusk for this upcoming season. And if you want, we could have a little countdown. You guys want to do a little countdown? We could do like a 30-second countdown. Yeah, we're going to do like a 30-second countdown. Let's see if we could get it ready. Let's see if we could do this. We should be able to. It's going to be so cool. I'm looking forward to it. I hope you guys like it. I really do. I put a lot of work into it. So you better fucking like it. All right, here we go. And now. And here we go. Hey, welcome everyone. You can see it. It's beautiful. It's like a little winter wonderland here in my desk. It's so pretty. And take a moment to inspire and look. And it's very festive. There's a little houses all around, decorated in the front. You can take a moment. I know it's going to be hard to see. We're going to do shows where the lights will be out and we'll have the candles lit, and then you can detail more. But yeah, I'm so excited for this freaking holiday season and Christmas season. It's going to be a great time, at least for me. I'm going to try to make it festive and be more merry. Gotta light up a piece of medicine that I had. And then I'm gonna roll. I have this one that I rolled up. We're gonna smoke it up. If you need, I can turn off these lights here, and you can see how it looks without the lights. The Christmas tree is over here. So we have the Christmas tree on the corner here, the nice tall Christmas tree. It's not so tall. I'm gonna make it. I'm gonna put something underneath to make it taller. I might just do that now. Let me see. Let's see what they do. Over there. Let's see if we can make it higher. Let's see. I gotta move Hootie Hoo. It's Hootie Hoo's over here. This is Hootie. Who's on the other side? So I haven't had the opportunity to see it in camera, but I want to make this higher. I think it's going to be much better over here, right? The Christmas tree. Looks pretty good. What do you guys think? It looks better higher, to be honest with you. That's our Christmas tree for the show, everyone. Thank you very much. Now the show's over. Now I can go to sleep. No. Kidding. We still got more to go. Got some news to watch. But I do got to put Hootie back. This is where I'm going to put Hootie. Hootie, I'm going to have to put you somewhere that you don't fall and bust your ass. Hootie, you go on top of the house. Okay? There's Hootie. Hootie looks cute. That's Hootie. Who is over here? You see him over here? That's who. That's Hootie Hoo. Oh, goodness gracious. But that is the Winter Wonderland with the lights off. But I kind of like it with the lights on. Because it's some light. So let's go ahead and get ready to watch some news. Let's go ahead and set this up. And let's get straight to it.
I'm Andy Mack. We're following some breaking news as a judge on Monday officially dismissed the criminal charges against former FBI Director James Comey and New York Attorney General Letitia James.
What?
We're following this closely here on Live Now.
The case got dropped. What?
News is the ruling.
Why?
US District Judge halts, at least for now, a pair of prosecutions that had hastened concerns that the Justice Department was being weaponized to pursue the president's political adversaries.
What?
As the judge concluded that the prosecutor who brought the charges,
she committed the crime. She committed the crime. How are they getting away with it?
The Justice Department. So,
oh no, this is bullshit.
Dynamic in this. Let's bring to the conversation right now former federal prosecutor, friend of the program.
That's bullshit.
Nima Rahmani. Nima, thank you so much for joining us. We talked last week, I believe, about potential misconduct by the prosecutor. This one's a different kind of area that the defense was trying to get it thrown out due to the appointment of Lindsey Hagen. What do we make of this development?
It's a huge development today, Andy. Probably one of the biggest decisions involving the Constitution's appointments clause. And this is what it says. So going back to our political science, U.S. history, and high school and college, we know that certain officers of the United States, they have to be appointed by the president and confirmed by the Senate. Obviously, there's been some gridlock in the Senate. So the law does allow for interim appointments of U.S. attorneys. So the U.S. attorney is the head prosecutor in any judicial district. And the law says that there can be an interim appointment for 120 days. That appointment can be made by the attorney general. After that, if there is no Senate confirmed nominee, then the district judges in that district get to choose the U.S. attorney. So what happened here, Andy, is you have Lindsay Halligan. She is the second interim U.S. attorney for the Eastern District of Virginia. Why does that matter? Well, the first appointee, his name was Eric Siebert. He was appointed. He was actually ultimately appointed again by the judges in the district, but he resigned rather than present the Comey charges to the grand jury. So when Halligan was the second U.S. attorney appointed on an interim basis, her appointment was challenged. And the judge in this case ruled that because it's a second appointee, that violates the appointments clause of the Constitution. Can't do that, right? It's the judges that have the authority to decide who's the U.S. attorney if the Senate and the president can't get their act together. So because Lindsay Halligan's appointment was unlawful, and because she personally went into the grand jury and presented the charges against Comey and presented the charges against James, all of her actions were void, and those indictments have to be dismissed.
And you mentioned this. Is this the end to this book for FBI Director James Comey? Because we talked a lot about the charges, the case. Is this dismissed for good against FBI James Comey?
Andy, unless the government wins on appeal, and believe me, they will certainly appeal to the Fourth Circuit. The James Comey indictment can't be filed because the Department of Justice waited until the 11th hour, just days before that 5-year statute of limitations was going to run. Because this indictment is void, it can't go back to the grand jury and get a new indictment. Now, the James case is very different. They still have time. Another prosecutor who's validly appointed can go refile those cases. And Letitia James doesn't have this same statute of limitations argument. So this is a huge win potentially. The case may be done. Letitia James, not so much. Again, another prosecutor that doesn't have these appointments issue can represent the case and get an indictment, and that case will move forward. Now, of course, they both have their other arguments. We've talked about it, the selective vindictive prosecution, the statements to the grand jury, potentially privileged materials in the Comey case. But at least as far as a procedural win, this is potentially a huge one for Comey and his defense team.
And New York Attorney General Letitia James is calling it just that, a win, as she said on social media, that I'm heartened by today's victory and grateful for the prayers and support I have received from around the country. I remain fearless in the face of these
She's such a
charges
fucking con artist, and she's getting away with it
every single day. I mean, you mentioned just the different facets that the defense was going around, both for former FBI Director James Comey and James.
Why would they dismiss him at the same day by the same judge?
That the judge says dismissed because she was wrongfully appointed.
That makes no sense.
Incorrectly. Does that give weight to any other of James's defenses if another charge is brought?
Not necessarily, and I'm sure this is a win, and Abby Lowell, who represents both of them, should be happy for his client, Letitia James, but this is just purely a procedural issue. It may just be a speed bump in her case. I don't think it's going to be dispositive necessarily. As long as there's someone else in that office who's duly appointed, go back into that grand jury, get a new indictment, because again, the dismissal was without prejudice. That means it can be refiled. So Tish James should be careful about doing a victory lap just yet. You know, she may ultimately get there, but I don't think she's quite there today.
I asked you this last time because we were talking about that potential misconduct, saying the grand jury didn't really see the full effect of some of the indictments against the former FBI director. What's next for Lindsay Halligan? Is this a black mark against her, or is this just an appointment, like you mentioned, a procedural note?
This is a harassment for the DOJ and Lindsay Halligan. Let's be honest. I know there's a lot of people watching that don't like James Comey, Republicans, even Democrats. A lot of them blame Comey for Hillary Clinton losing that first election against Donald Trump. But if the DOJ really wanted to go after Comey for the leak to the Wall Street Journal, they should have done so in a timely manner in 2017 when Trump was first president. Attorney General Bill Barr and his team should have done it, because they would have been within the 5-year statute of limitations. They would have gone after Comey for really what they care about, which is the leak itself. Let's not forget this case. The statute had run, so they're trying to get for lying about the leak to Congress. And they waited until the 11th hour. They appointed someone with no prosecution experience whatsoever. For first time going to the grand jury is presenting one of the biggest cases that the DOJ is handling. So had they not waited so long, had they not appointed someone who had never done this before, we would have prosecutors handling important cases. Really unforced errors here that were unnecessary. Setting aside the
That's why I
merits
say
of the
Pam
case
Bundy
and
is
the
not
defenses,
the
I
greatest.
could tell you, Andy, that I've gone to the grand jury probably 100 times. Really, this is just, I mean, it's pro forma. You never have these issues at the grand jury level. And the fact that we have so many and the DOJ is on the defense and not offense like it should be is a big problem, and really just goes to show how poorly this case has been handled, because again, they're scrambling at this late day when it really should have been done many years ago with someone who has the experience handling this type of case.
Not just the 11th hour, but the 11th hour and potentially the 59th minute. They were waiting till the very end to bring these charges. What comes next, Nima? Is there anything else that you'd like to note? Anything else that we should be paying attention for or watching for over the next several weeks in terms of both of these cases?
Well, the Comey case, especially, and they got appeal to the Fourth Circuit, and then, of course, all the way to the U.S. Supreme Court. That's really the only path to revive that indictment. Again, they can't get a new indictment because it'll be too late on this appointment. I'm looking at had these interim appointments, and it really hasn't been a big deal. No one's challenged it. There's certainly the possibility higher court will reverse this order and the Comey prosecution will continue. But this is really dispositive, this appeal, because of the statute of limitations. Then, of course, we'll see the other defenses that we've been talking about over the past several weeks. Was this vindictive or selective prosecution? Was there attorney-client privilege materials accessed? And then, of course, was Halligan's statements to the grand jury, was that improper? Is that another basis? So this is just the beginning of a lot of litigation when it comes to these indictments, Andy.
Yeah, the beginning, the middle, and the end, but this is closer potentially to the end, especially involving the former FBI Director James Comey, as the judge ruling dismissing these cases as Lindsay Halligan illegally appointed according to that ruling. All right, Nima, thank you so much. I appreciate your time, your insight. You're on Live Now.
Thanks, Andy. Talk soon.
All right, talk soon. All right.
All right. So let's keep it moving because we still got a lot more to go.
A stepbrother is now front and center in the death investigation of an 18-year-old high school student who died on a Carnival cruise ship. Let's be joined right now by Madison Scarpino in Atlanta with the latest on this mystery. What more can you tell us? What's the next step in this process?
Hey, Auntie Mac. Well, yeah, the 16-year-old stepbrother was sharing a cruise cabin with the victim, Anna Kepner, and that's also where her body was found. Well, in an interview with ABC News, Anna's grandparents say that the FBI told them she died from asphyxiation. And the grandparents, who were also on the family cruise, say the FBI is exploring the possibility it was caused by a so-called bar hold, which is a type of chokehold with an arm around the neck. But investigators and the medical examiner are staying quiet right now. ABC asked the grandparents if they think the stepbrother had anything to do with Anna's death, and here's what they say.
I mean, he was in a room with her. He was the only one seen coming and going. So I can't accuse him because I don't know what happened in that room. But the summation would be that he did something.
The grandmother also saying the stepson told her he did not remember what happened the night of Anna's death. And she also says that he was a, quote, emotional mess while interviewing with the FBI. We learned through a court motion filed last week in the stepmom's custody case that her teen son is considered to be a suspect in Anna's death, and he could soon be facing charges. Now, this all comes after a housekeeper discovered the cheerleader's lifeless body shoved under a bed in the cabin earlier this month, reportedly wrapped in a blanket and covered by life jackets.
Cruise ships are loaded with cameras. They have cameras everywhere. We may not have cameras in the room, but we're going to know at the time of death. We're going to know who was with her at the death.
And we have reached out to the attorneys for both Anna's stepmother and her father and are waiting to hear back. Back to you.
All right, thank you so much. And obviously, one of the main questions that I think about is just jurisdiction, because this cruise ship is traveling through different waters to different ports. Can you give us some insight into that? Who has potential authority if there are charges brought or anything happens?
So because, as you mentioned, this did happen supposedly on international waters during that Carnival cruise ship, it would be the FBI handling this investigation. And since all the signs are pointing towards the 16-year-old being the suspect, the fact that he's a minor probably is playing into the fact that we still have not seen any charges yet, if he is in fact charged with this crime.
Correct. Yeah, there's a lot of potentially finger pointing out there for this. What is Carnival Cruise saying about this? Have we heard any statements? Are they being cooperative with authorities?
So Carnival Cruise, in the beginning when this happened, they told us that they are fully cooperating with the Miami office of the FBI. As I mentioned, they are the ones handling the investigation, and they seem to kind of point all the questions back towards the FBI, but they are acknowledging that this happened on one of their ships.
All right, very good. Obviously, we're going to keep our eyes on ears for any developments in this case. Madison, I appreciate your time, your insight, your reporting. You're live now.
That's crazy. I wonder, because that happened in international waters. It doesn't matter because it runs through the FBI. And do you trust the FBI? Like, who do you trust? Like, I don't trust the government. I don't care who's in charge, Republican or Democrat at this point. Case proven with the Charlie Kirk. And the way the DOJ kept this Pat Bondi, she's not doing a great job. This is another case that's been botched. They botched the Diddy case. They botched this now with Letitia James and Comey. Are you kidding me? I'm sorry. She looks pretty, Trump. That's great. That's fine. She is a candy. But guess what? It's not my candy. It's not my type. And she needs to be replaced. I'm sorry, Pat Bondi. You did Trump great for him in Florida. That's cool. Congratulations. Take the pat in the back. But I think you need to hit the road, Jack. And don't you come back, because you're failing really bad. And it shows. So it's horrible. Let me see what else. If we got anything here. I got a whole bunch for us to watch. I just give me 1 sec so I can set this up. Gotta do some setting up. And it lets me. Because it's like for some reason YouTube is a little slow tonight. But it's okay, YouTube. You can be slow. Let's see. Give me one more. Man, my neck kind of aches. Yeah. It's going to be a busy night tonight. It's going to be busy with the news. So just give me a second while I can set everything up. And we'll get to it. Okay. So I just got to do some reordering. Range them around. I wish YouTube would do that. I wish you could see what I see when I say that. YouTube always does some crazy shit with their updates, and it's not for the good. Not for live. Okay, I think I got a whole good lineup here. Let me see. What is this? Okay, that cheerleader story. I wanted to see that one. Let's put it up here. So slow tonight. And let's bring this one somewhere around here. Okay, so it'll be a back-to-back liberal hive mind. We can do that. Come on. You know, I feel like they do it on purpose. Like, okay, I think I got a good lineup. Okay, so let's. Sorry about that. I just wanted to do some little adjustments to the show lineup. Yo, what's up, Doc? Just getting some of these stories together is crazy as fuck. This beautiful girl, man, such a beautiful girl, taken way too soon. This one right here. She was murdered on a cruise ship, a Carnival cruise ship. She was just turned 18, and I think her brother tried to bang her, and she resisted, and he ended up like choking her out.
So reportedly revealing the 18-year-old girl found dead on a cruise ship died from asphyxiation from an arm across her neck. It comes as the Daily Mail obtained court records with her stepbrother's
Yeah, very pretty too.
TH, saying he is, quote, currently the subject of an active FBI criminal investigation. Fox News legal analyst Greg Jarrett joins us now. Great to see you this morning, Greg. Thanks for joining us. So obviously there are a lot of complications here, and we've got a couple of things going on here with both the criminal investigation, and then you have this other case involving a divorce that looks like the FBI may be looking
Yeah,
at
it's a kid. The kid was like 16.
Yeah, I think that's true. It really is strange.
On a cruise ship? You know that motherfucker was horny as hell.
Asphyxiation by strangulation, reportedly the cause of death. Bruise marks on the side of the throat.
Choked her to
The victim's
death.
body was found wrapped in blankets, covered with life jackets, hidden beneath the bed. So obviously, murder is the likely scenario, although I wouldn't rule out an unintentional death and then a panic cover-up. But I think that's less likely. The step-family dynamics, Charlie, as you point out, are bizarre. They're alarming. I mean, you need a flowchart to figure out who's who. But the focus does seem to be on Anna's 16-year-old stepbrother, who was allegedly obsessed with her, and they were supposedly seen fighting with one another in the hours before her death. Then he was hospitalized when the ship returned to Miami the next day, which only adds to the deepening mystery, Charlie.
Here is Anna Kepner's grandmother talking about the cause of death on ABC World News tonight.
The FBI contacted my son and family.
I'm doing good.
Her cause of death.
Just here,
Her cause
chilling.
of death was asphyxiation. She, what do they call it? A bar hold?
Damn, she choked her out.
The elbow like this. They said when they took her body to the medical examiner's office, it was in perfect condition.
So that doesn't necessarily mean that it was intentional.
Right. It could be intentional, unintentional. That's less likely, as I say. Hopefully, the crime scene, Charlie, was preserved by ship authorities.
I hope there's no semen stains.
Examined by the FBI for incriminating evidence, particularly important DNA.
Or DNA, on the body.
Including under the girl's fingernails. It's possible that law enforcement obtained a court order to examine the stepbrother for defensive wounds on his body. That's always key. And of course, surveillance video on board the ship would be valuable, access, egress to and from the room where the body was found. And then the data collection. You know, when you use a key card to gain access to a room, that data is collected. They'll look at that. The sleeping arrangements involving step siblings is incredibly strange. 3 underage kids, different genders, all stay in the same room.
Up and down. It's like a little roller coaster.
It was allowed to drink alcohol. And, you know, there's parental liability here. The stepmother has reportedly invoked her Fifth Amendment right against self-incrimination. but that does not under law protect communications between her and the son. So, the
That's
whole
crazy.
thing is a quagmire. The FBI is going to
This case is going to be wild.
Yeah. Well, Greg, Jerry, you always break these things down for us very clearly, and we
But the
are grateful
FBI
to
is
you for it.
handling
Thank
it,
you.
so that shit's going to suck.
Thanks, Charlie.
I'm Steve Doocy.
I'm
Brian
the
Kilmeade.
FBI.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart.
Any
Click
of
here
those
to subscribe to the
three-letter-
Fox News YouTube.
Any of those 3-letter agencies don't want to fuck. They always fuck everything around and mess things up. It's like they threw out the Letitia James Comey case. On the same day. How the fuck you get? Because they said the lawyer is I guess illegally appointed or some bullshit. They some clinical shit. So they got their cases dismissed. And I was like, what the fuck? What in the world? People don't be held accountable. If you get into Washington, they listen. You get to Washington, you're like invisible. You don't get in trouble. And if you do get in trouble, they'll get you out of jail. Don't worry about it. That's crazy. Let's keep it moving.
While Hakeem Jeffries may deny his campaign solicited donations from Epstein, the problems of corruption in the Democrat Party run much deeper.
Yeah, I felt the energy
Congressman Chuy
the other
Garcia
day.
conveniently announced his retirement after
That's cool.
Illinois'
I'm happy for you.
congressional filing deadline, allowing his chief of staff, Patty Garcia, to be
Epstein's
the
fucking
only
chilling.
candidate
He's
on the
getting a
Democrat
tan.
primary ballot. He was rebuked by the House for his shady secession plan.
There are certain politicians who are becoming more and more prominent who have a contempt for the average American. Now we see it happen in Congress, where a sitting U.S. congressman handpicks his successor, and of all successors, a staffer.
And then there's Florida Congresswoman Sheila Sherfilis McCormick, who was indicted on charges of allegedly stealing millions of dollars in disaster relief funds. And of
What the
course,
fuck?
she blames racism.
Listen, racism.
Unjust indictment. I look forward to my day in court so I can prove myself and actually state the truth. But if this is what Congress is becoming, where they're always trying to intimidate you, scare tactics, especially attacking minorities, Black and brown people, then we're going to have to keep fighting for the district.
What?
And finally, AOC
They don't
may be in
never
some
hold
trouble.
themselves
The New York
accountable.
Post
They
reports
don't know
that the
what that word
Congresswoman wrote an
accountability
email
is.
pitch asking for donations to, quote, help us bring the joy of the holiday season into homes. But instead of the donations going to groups organizing
Yeah, I
turkey
know he's
drives like
surrounded by
she has in
traitors.
the past,
Them
donors are
I don't trust any
redirected
of
to
those
her campaign
motherfuckers.
website. New York City Democrat
Like,
Councilman Robert
I
Holden
can't trust the
told
government.
the
You
Post,
can't trust the
quote,
government.
it's a
When the
typical
government
bait and
comes saying
switch,
they want to
pretending
help,
to be for
that's
the
when you
people
run away
while
from them.
quietly pillaging them for every dollar they can get. Oh, there's so much here, Mr. David Webb, but I want to go to Congresswoman Sheila McCormick.
I
Okay, she
usually
said
did.
that this is all about her being a minority, and
And
that's why they're coming after her.
Charlie Kirk
for
was
her
killed by
alleged
Mossad.
crimes of, stealing that FEMA money. What say you?
Allegedly,
When
right?
caught,
But
claim
I felt it when he
racism if
died.
you're a Democrat, especially if you're.
I was doing a
But
show
here's
when
what's
that
interesting. The
happened.
FBI and the DOJ put this out. It's not just her; it's her brother Edwin McCormick, 51, who was also charged. They ran this through their family healthcare company on a FEMA-funded COVID-19 vaccination staffing contract in
Are the files
2021.
actually the files that they're
So
going to
you're saying
release?
it's not
You know what I
because she's a
mean?
black woman?
Can you trust?
How do you get
Can you trust
racism out of
anyone
this?
with
You don't
anything
get to this
these
level of
days in
indictment, by the
Washington?
way, within the DOJ if it's done
You got a
properly,
bunch
not
of
under a
idiots in
corrupt
Washington.
DOJ like, say,
Fucking
Merrick
got
Garland
AOC
or
there. What do you
otherwise,
expect?
or under the Biden
Like, you
administration.
think they're
You
going to be
don't get to
truthful?
this level without good evidence when you do it right. And what I just read, what they did took deliberate actions. You have
It's a big
to
rabbit hole, man.
lie, cheat, create entity,
It all
create
falls back to
false
Israel.
monetary
At the end of
trails
the day,
to
it goes
pull
back
off
to
something
Israel.
like this. As
So
alleged, I'll say that.
that's just
But
how it
to
is.
get to that level and to take $5 million, hey, look, if you
And I
steal
know Mossad,
500,000,
Israel killed
if you
Jeffrey,
steal
not
5
Jeffrey,
million,
Charlie Kirk.
that takes effort.
But
So what you're saying is this is not
that's
about
allegedly.
racism,
That's
David. I'm glad that we cleared that one up. Kaylee, I want to talk a little bit about AOC here. She's spending a lot of time with the turkey drive, which I give her a lot of credit for. Listen, I don't care who you are if you're raising money, you're helping people in need. I love that. But redirecting people to the campaign website, tisk Congresswoman.
And she's getting it easy
Like
too.
she's gearing up for a national campaign. If
She's getting
redirecting
it easy.
Thanksgiving donations to her own political campaign. Looks like she has a bigger picture in mind. I do want to talk about Representative Garcia for a moment here, because I do find the Democrats' outrage about what he did with his own chief of staff a bit ironic, since that's also what they did with Kamala Harris on a national level. They handpicked her without a primary, without the input of their own voters, to become the next Democratic candidate, and no one had a problem with it then. So he's just following suit. He's following that precedent, doing exactly what they did with her.
They put him
now
out
they're going to
too.
pretend to be mad about it? Give me a break.
No kings.
He was set up by his own team.
Jason, what do you make?
Because everybody's playing
It seems like
stupid.
Democrats, they're running
You know what I mean?
into some problems here. I love Hakeem Jeffries off the top there, though. Why does he always talk like that, first of all? Like he is in a hostage video or a robot.
They're not
He
taping off
didn't
the
know Jeffrey
area.
Epstein. He only knows about the atrocities. But then we've got some
You had a guy
receipts here
taking
that
out
may
a
say
chip
otherwise,
out of
trying
a
to maybe solicit
camera.
some donations from
Yeah, a whole
Epstein.
bunch of funny
I
shit
think these
going
Epstein
on.
files are really going to come back to bite them in the butt.
A lot of fucking funny shit.
And he said he had not spoken to Stacey Plaskett, the representative, and then
I'm sure
later
he
came
has
out and
been.
said, "Well, that was a private conversation I had with Representative Plaskett. We'll see what that turns out to be." But look, the Democrats have an ethical problem. Look at the mortgage fraud that's going on, the allegations of the mortgage fraud with Senator Schiff and others. Even Eric Swalwell is caught up in that as well. And again, allegations, but serious allegations. You can't go and do that and take advantage of your position in order to get
We might get into problems with
favorable
Venezuela.
treatment on your mortgage and your taxes.
Hey, look, I
Venezuela,
don't know
there's
why
been a
you have
lot
a
of activity
problem
around
confusing father with
the
husband.
waters
I
of
mean, I don't
Venezuela.
get it, Jason. Letitia James.
Oh, but speaking of corruption, Hillary Clinton is back on the lecture circuit asking for more cash.
We are
This crazy
able
bitch is asking for more money?
provide funding to candidates on behalf of causes, to try to elect people that are going to stand against this.
This bitch is still
tide of
alive? She's still
intolerance
talking?
and cruelty and all that goes with it.
She
She's
is
still
the
able to
Christmas
grab her
fruitcake
mouth
that just will
and be
not
in
go
jail.
away. But the funding went to Onward Together, Hillary's super PAC she founded after her 2016 election loss. And because her only other hobby besides grifting is whining about President Trump, she had to,
They're
of
about to
course,
get in
take a
trouble
swipe
too.
at the
Those
president.
six. I
wish
reported
that there
on
could
it.
be like a huge
I
national
think
sound
they're getting
system.
court-martialed or something.
We would all wake up and they'd say, "Attention, attention, we have found the problem and we have solved it. He is gone."
She's hilarious. This comes as Bill and Hillary may be held in contempt of Congress if they ignore their Epstein subpoena. All right, Kaylee, Hillary Clinton. I don't think that she has the pull in the Democrat Party that she thinks that she has, but she's always going to take the opportunity to do a paid speech or a lecture to the American people. She loves the spotlight. She's never going away.
And she can never get over her loss to Trump. So much of this goes back to that.
That's why I've been trying to read the news
and
but
complaining about money, asking for more money. Listen, money is not Democrats' solve-all issue. Kamala Harris raised $1.5 billion and it did her campaign no good at all. She blew through all of it and has nothing to show for it. So constantly using these things as opportunities to raise more money. I guess it's really great if you're Bill and Hillary Clinton because it's going to enrich them personally, but it's not great just as a Democratic politician.
In jail. They should be in jail, these motherfuckers.
Jason, how do you think that these Epstein conversations are going to go with Bill and Hillary? Do you think they show up? Do you think they're going to have to, press them to show up? Or how do you think this is going to go down? I'm very curious.
Well, look, when I was in Congress, I issued subpoenas.
I would love for them to go down in my lifetime.
The only way to enforce that, as Trey Gowdy likes to highlight, your subpoena is only as good as your ability to enforce it. So we had to go to Eric Holder to try to enforce a subpoena. So, good luck with that. But this time it's a little different, right? Because now you have an attorney general in Pam Bondi who actually takes her job seriously and does it.
Pam Bondi's not a good
prosecute if you don't adhere to that. Is
I don't know.
The U.S. Attorney for the District of Columbia, Jeanine Pirro. My guess is that Jeanine Pirro is not going to be bashful about it. Helping Congress enforce its own subpoenas.
Too much bark.
Yeah, I have a feeling you might be right about that one. David,
I'm smiling over that thought, by the way. Jeanine, I love that.
Yeah, how do you think this is going to shake out for them and just the Democrats in general? I know we keep going back to the
That
Epstein
man,
files,
I
but
don't
they
know
made
why
this
that
such a
man's
big ordeal,
still
only in
within
the last 9
politics.
months, of
You know
course.
that?
But they made it such a big deal, and I think there's going to be a lot of heavy
'Cause
hitters on the
he's very
Democrat
manipulative.
side because, as
He's a
Congressman Pat Fallon
narcissistic
said,
dude,
he
man.
was
He's
a Democrat
an
mega
agent.
donor. So
You
I
know,
think that this story is far from over, but I think that it's going
the
to be
agent that
presidential
loves
wacky at the end of
power.
the day.
It's already sadly laughable, and we shouldn't laugh at it because there were real victims here, and they were embroiled in this with Epstein. The money was being funneled to him, the political access, the power that went with it. Larry Summers is actually the perfect example of how this goes horribly wrong. Someone who was, by the way, Clinton's, what was it, Treasury Secretary, I believe, under Clinton when he was president. So you start looking at the ties here that happened. As far as Hillary Clinton and Bill Clinton, the Clinton Foundation is done. The donations dried up. This is part of the grift to get some money back. Then they can hand it off with generational skipping to Chelsea. And that's how they keep the family fund going at other people's expense.
Yeah, it's
While
all
not
theater.
delivering
You know how
anything
it
for
is,
the
Doc.
Democrat Party. What have the Clintons actually done for the Democrats?
Trump,
Not since he was president. I
he
can't
surrounds
think of
himself
anything.
around these
That's the
people
thing.
because these are the
They're
people
just grifting, and
they
even the
put to
Democrats are
him
too
to hire.
stupid to realize
Not
they're
like
taking it from
he
you for
chooses his people.
themselves.
No, this is the people they
God, you
present
people
to
are
him.
just hopeless.
Well, she can keep asking for it. That's her right.
People keep giving it to
But who
them.
are these people? They keep giving them money. That's what's amazing to me. She's kind of this, hey, let's get a picture with
You know
her
what?
kind
Yeah,
of-
I know.
The Obamas
I know.
learned from the Clintons. If you think about it, Michelle and Barack do nothing but show up to
But then
collect
you
the
wonder
check. They
why.
get wealthy, live in Martha's Vineyard where illegal aliens are not
I
allowed.
tell you, it's not about
And then
Jesus because
they walk
the
away,
fucking
and he still
Jews gave
hasn't
up
built a
Jesus,
library. So
and
what does
then
that tell
they
you about the real grifters?
try to kill the
Well,
motherfucker.
yeah, and now Michelle
You
is
know
on
what I
track
mean?
to become just as unlikable as
Like,
Hillary
what the
Clinton.
hell?
So, following in the same footsteps.
Can we
Them
run that poll? Who's
Jews trying to
more
kill Jesus.
unlikable, Hillary Clinton or
And you know
Michelle?
you
I
want
think
us
it's
to
still
protect
Hillary
you
by a hair.
because of Jesus?
But Hillary
Are you
isn't the
kidding
only
me?
embarrassment
Really,
to the
Harry and
Democrat
Michelle
Party.
Obama? You went there?
Oh, well, she lectured us about the hair, but we're going to give you our political turkeys of the year, and I'm going to go first. For me, it's a pretty easy one. It's Jasmine Crockett, especially with the
Oh, the
Dr.
crock of
Jeffrey
shit.
Epstein and the Jeffrey Epstein confusion
She's a
of last
craphead.
week that she tried to smooth over
I can't
but
stand
didn't
this bitch.
at all. So for me, I don't think you guys are going to beat mine. It's Jasmine Crockett all day, every day, all year long.
Oh, well, I go to Hunter Biden. Hunter Biden can compete with anybody when it comes to political turkeys. He's the gift that keeps on giving that way. Failure to launch in every single step of the way. Now he's out continuing to speak and let
Yeah,
his
and they
voice be
talked
heard.
him
And
not
remember,
to
Joe
release
Biden,
it.
President Biden said it's the smartest
But then
person
Trump was
he's
like,
ever met
he was
in
gonna
his
release
life.
it.
All right, mine is none other than
Yeah, it's been
Chuck
the long game.
Schumer.
Yep.
Started out the year
It's like
pretty
poker,
rough. He
dude. You
attracted
don't
the ire of the
rush.
left by
You
refusing
know,
to go
it's
with the
like
government shutdown at the beginning of the year,
it's
voted to pass
strategy.
a
It's all
continuing
about
resolution.
strategy.
Has since invited a primary challenge, more than likely from AOC. Ended out the year with the longest ever government shutdown that cost the American people very greatly, all because he was trying to avoid that primary challenge. And how did that go for him?
Yeah. The cost, by the way, in the billions from that. For me, the turkey from Crooklyn, the one and only soy boy, Hakeem Jeffries. That's the turkey of the year. He has no control over his caucus. He
The soy
has to
boy
go
of the
left to
year.
even try and stay in power. Whether Schumer stays or goes is another picture. That's the other
Yeah,
body.
Trump is
And
very
here's
smart.
where he loses even more. Republican wins, Republican success for the American people. Hopefully they lose even more seats in the House and he goes down as a further loser.
And he's really bad at interviews.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click
let's
here
keep
to
it moving.
subscribe to
We got
Fox
a lot
News
more to
YouTube page.
watch.
So 11:37 on the East Coast and 8:37 on the West Coast. My name is Josh Breslow, and we've been following breaking news all throughout the morning, but we do have another developing story that we're keeping an eye on. This coming in moments ago from our Fox 4 Dallas team. And I do want to remind you and say here, viewer discretion is advised as some of the details are disturbing. Now, we're hearing that 2 North Texas
What the
men
fuck?
have been indicted for an alleged scheme to sail to a foreign island, murder all the men there, and enslave the women and children. Again, this
What
information
the
here coming
fuck?
from court documents as
These
they
two
say the men
idiots?
planned and trained for nearly a year. That's according to legal documents in an attempt, they say, to fulfill their, quote, rape
Yeah,
fantasies.
it's
Gavin
like lip
Rivers
syncing. But what the
Weissenberg,
fuck is
21
this
years old
about?
of Allen, seen there on on the left-hand side of your screen.
Yeah,
And
Marjorie
Tanner
Taylor
Christopher
Greene
Thomas, 20
resigned.
years old, have been indicted by a grand jury on counts of conspiracy to murder, maim, or kidnap in a foreign country and production of child pornography. The charges were given
What?
for the pair's extensive plans to travel to an island, which is part of the Republic of Haiti, to attempt a coup there. That's again, according to the documents. Weisenberg and Thomas reportedly prepared from August 2024 to July 2025 to execute their plans, in which they allegedly intended to buy a boat, sail to that island, kill every man on the island,
Yeah, I saw him in the
overtake it by
wilds.
force, and take the women and children as slaves. The
What the
island
fuck
there
is
does
these
have
guys?
a population
Like,
of
what
a
drugs
total
are
of
they on?
87,000 people. From July 2024 to May 2025, the suspects apparently took classes to prepare for the coup. On August 5th of 2024, Weisenberg enrolled, we're told, at the North Texas Fire Academy in Rockwall. This was allegedly an effort to gain training and useful skills for their plot. I mentioned it a few times, viewer discretion advised, and all of this information coming in from court documents that were obtained by Fox 4 Dallas. On January 7th of 2025, we're told Thomas enlisted in the U.S. Air Force, and the documents say that he intended to use his military training for the planned overthrow of the island. We're also told that February 8th, Weisenberg actually failed out of fire training. On February 20th, Weisenberg bought tickets to Thailand, at least partially, to enroll in a sailing course to prepare for getting to the island. The indictment says once he got to Thailand, he never enrolled due to the cost of that course. Then in March, Thomas managed to change his Air Force assignment from a base in Germany to one located over in Maryland. The indictment says this was both to stay in the U.S. to continue planning the coup and an attempt to recruit homeless people from the Washington, D.C. area to help. The suspects are accused of attempting to recruit others
Yo, what
to
the
help
fuck
with the
these
coup,
guys
both
were?
online and in person.
What they thinking?
Weisenberg and Thomas are also
They really
accused of
think they were
coercing a
gonna take over
minor
an
to
island.
engage in sexual activity on camera. That was back in August of last year. Weisenberg arrested on July 3rd on his charges, but what we don't know is the arrest date for Thomas. Fox 4 Dallas reaching out to the attorneys listed for Weisenberg, but they have yet to respond. No legal representation found for Thomas at this point. Weisenberg and Thomas both face up to life in federal prison if they are convicted of conspiracy to commit murder in a foreign country. Again, this is being investigated by several agencies, including the FBI, the U.S. Air Force Office of Special Investigations, and police departments. The case being prosecuted by the Assistant U.S. Attorney. We will keep you updated here as we do get additional information. I do want to pop this up on your
Fucking
screen.
weird
This is
case.
actually a post just coming in from Fox 26 Houston saying that 2 North Texas men have been indicted for an alleged scheme to sail to a foreign island.
It sounds so
murder all the
stupid,
men,
though.
And enslave the women and children. Again, Fox 4
To
Dallas
enslave all the
that
women
that
and
is an
children
island of
and to
about
kill all the men. You know how
87,000 people.
difficult that is for just 2 white boys from Texas to do? You talk about 2 white boys from Texas that probably got high on something, maybe some bad supply, and they're like, yeah, let's take over a fucking island and let's fucking kill all the men and fuck all the women and keep the children. What? What the fuck? Are you kidding me? Like, what drug would they were on? Because I don't want to take that drug at all. I don't want that drug. Whatever the fuck the drug they took that night to cock up that stupid ass fucking plan that makes no fucking sense. Yeah, we're gonna kill all the men. Like, that island, I believe, has like 84,000 people, and maybe more than half is men. So they think they're gonna kill almost close to like 35 to 40,000 men. Just them 2. That sounds stupid, though. I know. That's just crazy, dog. That's crazy. Yeah, it seems like it's like the shit that they throwing at the people in the news, right? Because I'm watching this and I'm picking up the energy, and I could tell when it's bullshit and when there's a lot of shit involved in a lot of these stories. But I like this next dude. This next dude, he's really cool. I like his channel, Liberal Hive Mind. Let's go ahead and watch this episode here because should be good.
Hey guys, welcome to the Liberal Hive Mind, a channel solely focused on exposing the abundant hypocrisy of the left. And of course, here's your meme of the day, brought to you by 5mind.com. Okay, so I guess in comes the Zoran Mamdani transition team, now doubling down and attempting to save face after that disastrously embarrassing Oval Office meeting with President Trump where they got absolutely frickin' mogged. But you know, the initial claim is that they were going to remain a sanctuary city, they were not going to cooperate with ICE, and now they've clarified exactly what that stance really means. And I gotta tell you, it's possibly the dumbest thing I've heard all year. Not exactly surprising that the dumbest point of policy is coming from this self-described communist in New York City, or at least coming from his team. But here they go, the old double down. You know what I mean? Here's their promise of
take out a whole island
to the Democrat base, except what they're doing really is sabotaging you, New York City, your safety, your country interests. That's really what they're sabotaging, not the president. No, their own damn voters. Let me show you guys exactly what's going on. We got some stuff to get into, so let's roll the tape. All right, folks, so here's one of Mamdani's top advisors.
We certainly were clear about our disagreements in the room, and the mayor-elect made clear that we uphold sanctuary laws in our city, and all immigrants will be safe in our city. We also made very clear that we feel there has been inhumane raids just this week. So it will be a future conversation with the president, but we again grounded an overall desire and the acknowledgement that our sanctuary city laws allow cooperation in extreme violent felony cases. And that is something where I think we have alignment.
Oh my Lord. What she's saying is that they will only cooperate when the absolute worst of the worst show up on the radar. Everything short of an extreme violent felony basically gets a free pass. What the actual F is this nonsense? And of course, the individuals also getting a free pass by this logic are the extremely violent felons or future felons that they're fighting to allow to remain in the country. They're saying, look, some people are going to get murdered. There's going to be some extremely violent crimes. And when those crimes occur, after an American citizen has been brutally murdered or killed by a drunk driver, then we will act. Then we will cooperate. What is going on? Essentially, the plan is to allow unvetted people in by the masses, to shield them with sanctuary status, let crime and underground economies fester for years, and then only when they absolutely have to for obvious political reasons, because they don't want to be associated with, I don't know, mass murder and other heinous acts, only then will they do the right thing and cooperate with the Trump administration. My brain hurts. And this is the party, by the way, that says they have your interest at heart. This is the party that says they're compassionate. Compassionate again to who? The most violent of criminals? We will defend you unless you become a political negative PR headline for us, and then we'll hand you over to Donald Trump. What the hell? I can't wrap my head around it. Compassionate. This is the opposite of compassion. And of course, we've seen what's happening in New York City. We've seen the Venezuelan gang members robbing people on the streets. We've seen the migrant crews taking over entire blocks. And probably one of the biggest scourges going on in New York City are the women, the young women in many cases, being trafficked into these prostitution rings that are seemingly operating openly on the streets. I mean, it's like a third world country over there.
These girls are being trafficked from all corners of the world, and they're being sold out or they're being pimped out on the corners of New York City in these massage parlor / brothels. Each location that we went to has a different ethnicity. You want a Chinese girl, you want a Colombian, you want a Cuban, you want an Indian, you want a Haitian, you want a Venezuelan. They're all there. In a 10-block radius, we probably passed at the very least 50 different brothels. So this is a one corner, and almost every single corner in Queens on Roosevelt Avenue between 91st and 81st Street looks just like this.
It's an absolute shit show out there. And of course, these women on the streets, they're being trafficked. Almost all of them, near unanimously, are illegal migrants. And it's gotten increasingly worse since all the sanctuary city nonsense and Joe Biden's open border policies. And so the party that's claiming to be compassionate is basically looking the other way for political reasons, allowing all of this crime and human suffering to fester, and then grandstanding on the national stage as if they're the ones fighting some sort of extreme evil. You are the extreme evil. Look at what you are allowing to fester on American streets in the world's richest and most prosperous first world nation. These are third world environments that are being allowed to continue. People living on the streets. You got street vendors everywhere. You got prostitutions. You've got gangsters and thugs running all the operations and running protection rackets. All of that crime allowed to continue. No, New York City will only act again when they get a PR nightmare. When an illegal sets somebody on fire in the freaking subway station, then, oh, we'll cooperate. Hey, Tom Homan, come take this guy. I mean, just stupid. The entire Democrat mode of thinking is stupid. You know, speaking of that, here's a Democrat commentator giving us a glimpse into the leftist worldview.
We are $38 trillion in debt. And a lot of this has to do with the tax cuts that keep getting passed. I think one of the things we have to be honest about is if we're going to help the American people by building up a more robust social welfare state for things like childcare, that was the last cost item that I was going to mention that is so expensive for people, then we're going to have to make sure we have revenue. I don't think Trump's tax cuts should have ever been put in place in the first place, and I certainly didn't support extending them. I think we have to be honest with the American people that we're going to have to get rid of those if we're going to be able to get the debt and deficit under control so we can shore up programs like Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid.
Translation, you should pay more taxes despite the cost of living increase, despite the housing crisis, the healthcare cost crisis. I mean, the list just goes on and on. It's just an affordability crisis across the board. Yeah, well, you should be paying more taxes to give more benefits to illegal migrants, people who did things the wrong way. It's crazy. You know, it's so counterintuitive because Democrats are so hyper fixated on housing affordability and affordability. Of course, after 4 years of ignoring the issue under Joe Biden, as inflation peaked at 9.1%, but now they want to keep talking about affordability. And even Zoran Mamdani does a whole big spiel about housing affordability. Yet they support this stuff that makes housing and everything else more expensive for regular Americans. That creates a supply-demand imbalance due to the massive, near uncontrolled flow of illegal migration, cause the crisis, further exacerbate the crisis, and then pretend as if you're the person coming in to fix it. It's just insane. But of course, at least thankfully in this situation, there's a little bit of silver lining. And that's that this whole, again, you know, Democrat thought process, policy stance, it's all bullshit. And it will never win on the world stage. As much as Democrats are, you know, delving into this extreme mass amnesty and stacking the courts and yada yada and essentially locking in eternal Democrat power, you know, the reality is endless migration, sanctuary city policies, criminal-friendly laws, taxpayer benefits being handed to illegal migrants in the masses. Regular, everyday Americans cannot stand this stuff, and it will not be allowed to stand. And really, I think the 2024 mandate really speaks to that. The people are done with this crap. Whatever Zoran Mamdani is selling, nobody is freaking buying outside of, you know, the few New York City boroughs. And so at the end of the day, it's all getting shut down. Healthcare to illegal migrants, no longer happening. SNAP EBT fraud or illegals receiving American food aid, it's getting cut off. And now when it comes to sanctuary city policies, I mean, Zoran Mamdani can play tough guy all he wants. And you know what? They can refuse to cooperate on nearly every single case, but that will not deter Tom Homan and President Trump. They do not need Zoran Mamdani's permission to enforce federal law. And so whether he likes it or not, it's happening. And I'm sure he doesn't want to cooperate, but I'll tell you one thing, he certainly won't sabotage. He won't get in the way because he knows that if he does, Tom Homan will arrest him without
have
hesitation.
a good night.
Anyways, I guess that's the silver lining. And that's also a little glimpse into the backward politics you think you are. In fact, the fact that you support this stuff and even say this stuff out loud proves that half of you are complete freaking morons. At least half. There is no intellectual monopoly on the left, and this yet again proves it. Anyways, that's what I got for you guys. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.
I like that channel. I got another video of his channel to watch, but here, let me turn off these lights. Get a little break for my eyes. That's more like it. I hope everyone's having a good night tonight. Politics is always the same shit. Doesn't matter. It's all rigged system. The judges are rigged. The system is rigged. It's like we are in a prison planet, ladies and gentlemen. We were born into this planet because we must have done something in our past lives to get us into this planet. Because I tell you right now, this is punishment. You know, it's like you got to work your way through life and you got to pay your own bills and take care of your own self and pay your own rent and buy your own food and clothe yourself and do this and that and go to the doctors and like, what the fuck? Like, seriously? That's life for us? Fucking being a slave to the system, still being a slave to the system? It's like slavery never end. It's changed. They changed the word. They changed slavery. Now they call it life. It's your life. I'm like, what the fuck? No, this is slavery. No, that's life. I'm like, motherfuckers. All right, let's keep it moving to another liberal hive mind. I really like this channel. It's pretty cool.
Hey guys, welcome to the Liberal Hive Mind, a channel solely focused on exposing the abundant hypocrisy of the left. And of course, here's your meme of the day, brought to you by 5mind.com. Now, once again, we're in that same situation. You know, Donald Trump says something, and of course, as we know with President Trump, he's not going to just say the politically correct thing. No, he's going to go all the way and say what he really means. And so we're in that same situation where the left is going to tell you, oh, he's a racist. What he has said here is just completely and utterly outrageous. He's a fascist, a tyrant, yada yada. They want you to believe that what he's saying is unhinged, detached from reality, has nothing to do with actual important issues, but no, it's just because Donald Trump is racist and in this case hates Somali people. But of course, as per usual, the more you delve into it, the more you actually pay attention to what's going on, well, you start to realize that actually what Donald Trump's suggesting here, it ain't that crazy. If you're actually paying attention to all the information that's coming out here from Minnesota. I mean, holy moly, is it damning. Donald Trump isn't crazy. No, he is absolutely right to now be taking this action. He's calling for the immediate elimination of TPS protections for Somalians living in the country without papers. He's calling to send them back. And frankly, I think this is less born out of racism and more born out of necessity. Let me show you guys exactly what's going on. We got some stuff to get into, so let's roll the tape. All right, folks, so to build on what I was just saying, this isn't some debate about diversity or refugees or race anymore. This is about a very specific community that was brought into one state, of course, under this feel-good humanitarian banner. And now what's been documented over roughly the last, let's say, 2 decades has been a widespread, systematic abusing of the American welfare system, many other programs, of the voting system. The list goes on, bleeding taxpayers dry. And now we're even learning, in some cases, literally funneling money to terrorist organizations. And so Trump is saying enough is enough, and here's the statement that he issued.
President Trump about Somalis living in Minnesota.
Tonight, the president posted on Truth Social, quote, "I am, as president of the United States, hereby terminating, effective immediately, the temporary protected status for Somalis in Minnesota. The Somali gangs are terrorizing the people of that great state, and billions of dollars are missing. Send them back to where they came from."
And I think absolutely that is the right action to take at this point. Look, of course, if you're Somali and you've done things the right way, you've never broken a law, you immigrated properly, you're now a naturalized citizen, I don't think this conversation is about you. But considering the report we got last week, that apparently, I think what was the estimate, like 40% of this population was either in the country through an H-1B fraud, marriage fraud, overstayed visa, the list goes on. Yeah, it's absolutely time to act. Those cases must be investigated. If you were found to have committed immigration fraud, you should, in fact, in that case, be denaturalized. Or if you're on a visa or a green card, you should be sent home. Your visa should be revoked. And all the illegal aliens that Democrats gave temporary working status or temporary protected status, just like it was removed for hundreds of thousands of Haitians and Venezuelans, in this particular case, it should be removed as well. And at the end of the day, for me, it's kind of just like an equation, you know, cost-benefit analysis. Immigration, in my view, has to benefit a nation. It just has to. The idea that America is this generous welfare state that's just going to be bleeding and bleeding taxpayer dollars, stacking more and more debt to make everybody else's dreams come true, to import all kinds of people into the country or to allow illegal aliens to invade the country and create a massive taxpayer burden on the nation. That is not how any nation should conduct itself. It doesn't matter if we're talking about America, Brazil, China, Japan, any African nation, Middle Eastern nation. No nation should ever accept that, importing a literal burden on the nation. Immigrants, the only people whose burdens I think we should be accepting are legitimate refugees, people who have legitimate claims of asylum. But that's not what's going on here. 99% of these illegal migration cases are economic migration. And that, of course, has to end. But when it's costing the taxpayer a boatload of dollars just to prop up these communities, that alone is unacceptable. But in the Somali community, it gets sent to a whole new level when you consider the mass amount of fraud and scams that are coming out of this community.
A new, stunning report from the City Journal showing a massive fraud scheme in Minnesota. You have to hear about this. It involves false autism claims, the Somali community, and connections to a terror group. It all revolves around autism and HSS program. That is Minnesota's Medicaid Housing Stabilization Services. Now, this was created to help seniors, addicts, and others find housing. But the criteria to enter this program was incredibly loose and therefore easy to take advantage of. It's led to fraud and costs absolutely exploding. Just 5 years ago, in 2020, costs for this program were $2.6 million. 4 years later, by 2024, costs had been over $100 million, 104. Through the first 6 months of this year, costs are at 61 million, meaning if you double that over the entirety of the year, you're looking at $122 million. In 5 years, from 2 million to 122 million. Now, why? 6 people are accused of defrauding HSS. And they're members of the Somali community, but this just gets worse. 40% of households in Somalia get remittances from abroad. That totals $1.7 billion. That is more than the entire budget of the Somali government. Money being sent abroad, from abroad, back to Somalia. Where is that money going? Take a look at this. Most alarmingly, a lot of that money is funneled through money traders, and in the end, ends up in the hands of Al-Qaeda-linked Islamic terror group, Al-Shabaab. So to bring this full circle, the Minnesota taxpayers are funneling money through fraudulent autism claims back to Somalia, where that money lands in the accounts of Al-Shabaab.
And that really just scratches the surface. We got this autism-related Medicaid claims in Minnesota were around $3 million. And by 2023, the same claims had exploded to $399 million. That is insane. And we're learning that a huge chunk of them were popping up in Somali-heavy neighborhoods. Actually, I might as well pull up this post. I found this the other day, and I've been saving it in my back pocket, to really observe the totality of these scams. I think it'll be easier for me to just kind of rely on this individual's work. This was posted by the user at Pig War, timeline of Somali immigration and fraud in Minnesota. In 1991, the Somali Civil War erupts, which displaced over 1 million people. In 1992-1993, 5,000 refugees are resettled in Minnesota. Between 1990 and the 2000s, the population then grew in Minnesota to 70 to 80,000, with roughly 40% on benefits. Then the remittances start, reaching $1.7 billion annually by 2023, exceeding Somalia's government budget. We've got 2007-2015, Minnesota leads the U.S. in Al-Shabaab/ISIS recruitment, with over 20 American Somalis joining overseas. In 2018, Fox 9 exposes $100 million in childcare fraud, with suitcases of cash flown to Somalia, apparently or allegedly funding terrorist organizations like Al-Shabaab. In 2019, you've got Tim Walz elected to governor, and over 28 fraud scandals have been uncovered so far during his tenure. A feeding scam receiving $3.4 million. Autism fraud rises to $54 million. In 2020, you've got COVID-19 waivers, which enable unchecked program expansion. Housing scam launches to 2.6 million annual estimate, pays out 21 million. Feeding scam explodes to 200 million via fake claims. Autism fraud grows to 77 million. Officials flag issues, but Somali racism lawsuit then delays any action. In 2021, a housing scam payout of 42 million. Autism fraud grows to 183 million. Feeding fraud peaks at nearly 200 million. Money is then diverted to luxury vehicles and real estate in Kenya, Turkey, and the United States. In 2022, you got housing scam at 74 million, autism fraud. So basically, the fraud's just increasing and increasing and increasing. And on top of that, we've seen case after case after case of election fraud, again, from these same communities in Minnesota and in Dearborn, Michigan as well. And so the whole thing begs the question, as a country, is it worth it to be allowing this widespread abuse, fraud, and scamming in the nation?
And
that's exactly what it
government
is. It's an
over there.
abuse. There's no appreciation for being accepted with open arms in American society, given everything, all kinds of generous benefits. No, that's not enough. Got to scam the friggin' system for everything that you could get and continue sending all the money back home. In some cases, that money making it into the hands of terrorist organizations. It's insane. It's absolutely frickin' insane. It's unacceptable from the perspective of American taxpayers. You expect to bring people in, first of all, for them to assimilate. We know that's not happening in these communities. But secondly, to make America their home. But clearly, the idea is to abuse this privileged position, to take advantage of it as much as possible, not to create a life in America and assimilate to that culture and society, to give back, to work hard and pay taxes, but to leech as much as possible and send it abroad in remittance payments. And it'd be one thing if the money leaving was actually hard-earned money that people paid taxes on. I mean, I still wouldn't be necessarily a fan of it because, again, you're importing people that are siphoning money out of the nation. That's a huge issue with illegal migration from South America. But, it'd be one thing if they were paying taxes on the dollars and then sending them back to their family abroad. But it's another when you are scamming the taxpayers out of hundreds of millions of dollars, potentially billions over the decades, and then sending all that money back to Somalia. This is insane. It's unjustifiable. It's indefensible. And on top of it is all the illegal immigration scams, then all the rhetoric that we see coming out of these political rallies and such with Ilhan Omar and others, where they pledge allegiance to a foreign nation, where you got police sheriffs claiming they serve Somalians first in America. It's out of control. It's wrong for the nation. That's pretty much it. America's holding all the freaking cards on the world stage, and it should be able to choose which immigrants it chooses to admit to the country. And clearly, when you have groups such as this that are engaging in such massive widespread fraud, and I'm sorry if you're not a fraudster and that puts you under that umbrella, it's an unfortunate situation, obviously. But at the end of the day, it's kind of like a more utilitarian view. The ends could justify the means. You could argue that in totality, it's just not worth it. It's a drain. American taxpayers are giving more than they're receiving. And the worst part is they're not even receiving, it seems, basic respect and appreciation as like a baseline principle. No, it's a lack of respect and then multiple insults added to the injury. At what point do you say enough is enough and just slam the freaking door? Anyways, that's pretty much what I got for you guys. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.
That's what you got to do. You got to slam the door and say enough is enough and stop the shit, stop that money flow, because we're funneling all that money and Al-Qaeda is getting that money. And Trump already announced like all those groups out there, terrorists. So, I mean, you got to cut them. They're abusing our system. They found a loophole and they're taking advantage of the system and sending all that money overseas instead of for them here to be prosperous here and to develop their life here. Nope, that's not what they're doing. They're taking all the money and sending it overseas. And all the taxpayer money. The fucking taxpayers' money. That's crazy. All right. We're going to watch here Benny Johnson. I want to check this episode out here. So let's go ahead and watch this.
What's up, guys? Benny. So we covered that Candace Owens is alleging that she's about to be assassinated by a group of French and Israeli mercenaries funded by the French government. She put this post up this weekend saying effectively that there is a massive plot that is already in motion to kill me, and it is sponsored by the French First Family. This has been seen by 40 million people, 213,000 likes, and nearly 100,000 reposts. Candace Owens saying that there is a high-ranking employee inside of the French government that is tipping her off to her, saying that the person, Charlie Kirk's assassin, trained with the French Legion as well. Another journalist also is on the mark and will be assassinated as well. So this is something that is a remarkable claim. Obviously, the French government is suing Candace Owens in an astonishing move. But would they actually kill her? I mean, governments just don't go kill inconvenient people, right? Like America would never do that, right? You can't just search for a list of assassinations by the United States of America. Well, I mean, who did we assassinate exactly? Okay, so some guy in World War II. All right, some people from Vietnam. Okay, and just a few more 100,000 people. Okay, so there's like okay, so maybe assassinations do take place. This is why, in my original assessment of this, I said I am not going to take this out of hand. I am not going to sit there and laugh at it or say that Candace is trying to just, fearmonger or gather attention onto herself. Like I'll take it seriously. I watched Charlie Kirk get killed. I watched my president get shot in the head on at a live event. I'm not going to rule out anything on this front, and I will absolutely take these kind of threats seriously because, well, it's happening right before our very eyes.
Yeah.
So why wouldn't I? Well, Candace Owens is now dropping more information about what's actually going on here, and it's remarkable. Here we go. Let's read. There will be no official response from the palace, the French palace, the French government, because what I have shared is true, and I have evidence to support my claims.
Woo.
I even have the names of the people that are trying to
Brigitte
kill me.
is a man.
They're
Brigitte
likely trying to
is a
figure out where the
man.
leak came from.
Man with big
We
balls.
are talking about the murder of citizens for speech. And again, the governments engage in lots of murders around there. Like, it's just the way that it's always worked. Have I seen the direct evidence that Candace is talking about? No. Should she provide that? Maybe eventually. Should she have as tight of a security as possible? Maybe not go out in public for a while? I mean,
only in America.
I'm just saying, like, I'm not going to dismiss this. I'm not going to sit there and make fun of Candace for this. I think that this kind of stuff is really serious. I really do. I'm told the payments for the assassinations are running through the Club des Cents in France. This means that there is a paper trail, and I encourage the patriots of France to do what they can to uncover it. I would again like to stress out that there was a French female assassin, but also a male, an Israeli assassin that was selected to kill me. These are joint state operations, Candace says. It says this has 5 million views, 54,000 likes, 11,000 reposts. Yikes. What is a Club des Cents? Club des Cents apparently got $1.5 million for my assassination. How will the world respond? When everything is said and done and the public learns that Macron moved $1.5 million for my assassination, how will the world respond? He moved it to the Club des Cents? What is this? The Club des Cents means the Club of 100 brings together distinguished chefs. This club is known for the Champignons de Cognac. Its name indicates the club is 100 official members. In addition, there are a few trainees as well as foreign. It was founded in 1912. The club encourages various activities that focus on gastronomy. So how would this be possibly linked to assassination, like on a state level? Well, let's go ahead and read, shall we? Club des Cents. The club presents itself as a simple association of bon vivants and food lovers and connoisseurs, but in reality, far less incongruous with other countries, become customary to settle major national affairs over a meal. This is a very discreet circle. Its headquarters is a stone's throw from the palace. Half the club's members are male, comes from old aristocratic families, wealthy heirs, ambassadors, historians, a place to convey messages. CEOs of companies and captains of industry make up the bulk of the membership. The club is a secret society, the kind of Freemasonry fork in the palate. At the table, the members primarily discuss culinary tastes, so on and so forth, and Michelin stars. But let's not be naive. These industrialists and politicians and wealthy individuals, it is the table of the one that governs, the French bishop said. The table of the ones who govern. Okay. Here's a photo of it. There you go.
What do you guys think about
all
this?
right. Let's continue. It is not a coincidence that French legionnaires were in the United States training with our Marines for 3 weeks. Those 3 weeks ended in California. Another military training exercise began alongside civilians in Camp Riley in Minnesota. French foreign legionnaires were involved in Charlie Kirk's assassination. They were not the only ones, but they were involved. Oh, okay. So this is one that really gets me right here because I use Telegram all the time. I'm a big fan of Telegram. Pavel Durov is the creator, CEO of Telegram, and it's the founder. And he's a really smart guy. He's a really rich person, and he is somebody who's been imprisoned in France, effectively because of state tyranny. Anyway, Pavel says this: after reviewing everything Charlie Kirk has ever said about Macron's France, I find Candace's info about the French involvement in his death entirely plausible. Charlie called for a 300% tariff on France until the charges against me were dropped. Goodness. And he links out to a Charlie post. President Trump should announce 300% tariff on French wine unless all charges are dropped immediately against Pavel Durov. If Europe is going to imprison CEOs of platform where free speech thrives, there should be stiff and painful consequences. So again, this is like very, very powerful tech oligarch, who runs a very, very important platform, Telegram, which I love, by the way. Well-connected people have told me that the French intelligence services are not exactly unknown for assassinations, a point supported by public sources. I just Googled French Secret Intelligence Service assassinations, and the results are freaking wild. Let's read. Hit squad of French secret agents hired for contract killings, according to the Times of London. French intelligence agents charged in murder plot, according to the Associated Press. Mossad accomplices how Israel relied on French foreign intelligence to organize its killing campaigns. Wow, according to the English Historical Review. And French ex-spy suspected of Congo plot shot dead in the Alps. Daniel Forrester had been investigated for his plot to assassinate opposition figures. He was found riddled with bullets in the Alps. Goodness. He was discovered in a pool of blood in a parking area off a little used road. Police said the killing was a professional job, and postmortem revealed he had been shot 5 times.
Damn.
Okay. People don't realize what France is. Some 15 countries in Africa remain prisoners of the colonial franc and pay a chunk of income to Paris every year. When a Western country wants to do something diabolical or sadistic or illegal, torture, murder, etc., it's France that they call. Goodness. French team was subcontracted to kill Gaddafi. He told me how he was assassinated. We're advancing into a new age of transparency, and the best advice that I can give to all of Charlie's friends is to be as transparent as humanly possible. Protect the truth tellers at all cost. Thank you for your bravery. Crazy. So here you go. Elite French club allegedly funneling payments to Candace Owens' assassination tied to the Rothschilds, family known for throwing satanic-themed Illuminati parties. It just keeps getting better. National security source told me this threat against Candace Owens is real. I've never treated it any other way, right? Exactly 1 year before they murdered Charlie, they tried to murder me. Do tell, Candace. I mean, seriously. Americans are being assassinated on American soil, and agencies within our governments are aware. We have lost this country. Total black pill. Red pill black, right? Yeah. Okay. We pray for Candace and her safety. Taking our own safety seriously. I knew Charlie really well. So what else can you do? God is the author of life and death. Be smart out there. It's your boy Benny. Like, share, and subscribe. See ya.
Yeah, that's wild, right? Because you have these elite assassins out there, and I know a lot of people, came through that border, and a lot of not so good people are here, and they're integrating with the American people, and the American people are too gullible, but they're really sleeping with the enemy, and a lot of them need to go back to their country. And when are we going to sign this insurrection act? Like, Trump, why are we sitting on our hands on the insurrection act? I don't understand. I need some clarification on why that's not being in the news. It's not being spoke upon. It's like it's silent. Like, you sign that insurrection act, that's it. They all gotta get the fuck out. No more playing games. You gotta get them out. But it is what it is. All right, let's see what else we got. Oh, we got a good lineup here of Tyson De La Cruz, a friend of the show. He is always here on Thursdays at 7:30. You'll have Tyson De La Cruz live on MyMindoverYourMatter. So let's go ahead and watch a series of his shows. Let's go ahead and set this up, and let's enjoy.
Detroit couple accused of employing nearly 250 undocumented workers. They were found at a plumbing company in Plymouth.
Yeah, it's kind of frightening. Just looked like a normal business that I didn't see a lot of work trucks coming in and out.
America, a Michigan couple just got exposed for running a $74 million plumbing empire built entirely off the backs of illegal immigrant slave labor. Moises and Raquel Orduna Rios employed 253 people across 6 states, but federal agents could only confirm that 6 of them were legally authorized to work in the United States. We're talking about a systematic exploitation operation where they were collecting workers' passports, cramming them into overcrowded housing, and paying them under the table while denying them basic benefits like health insurance. But here's what's really disgusting. They were making millions off the backs of vulnerable people while legitimate American contractors couldn't compete because they actually followed labor laws and paid fair wages. Because here's what nobody wants to talk about. This case exposes how illegal immigration creates a 2-tier labor system where criminals profit from slave labor while law-abiding businesses get undercut.
Ruth, I can tell you that I've been digging into this all day, and the couple lives over in Plymouth, and they are facing serious charges and serious time behind bars.
What is up, guys? Tyson De La Cruz here. Thank you so much for rocking with me. This story shows exactly how illegal immigration hurts both American workers and the immigrants themselves who get exploited by greedy criminals. Let me break down the scope of this operation that spanned multiple states and generated massive profits through systematic exploitation of illegal immigrants. The Orduna Rios couple didn't just hire a few undocumented workers. They built their entire business model around slave labor.
Spots who visited the home over in Plymouth, knocking on their door. No one opened the door, but spoke through the door, saying that they are not interested at this time with speaking with the news media.
The Orduna Rios couple are hiding behind their lawyers and refusing to speak to media because they know they got caught running a criminal enterprise. They were making $74 million off of illegal labor. You don't want to explain yourself to the public.
The Plymouth Township couple owned Orduna Plumbing, Manpower Supply, and allegedly hired undocumented workers, took their passports, and crammed them into tight living quarters.
When you confiscate someone's identity documents and control their housing, you're not an employer. You are a slave master. Out of 253 workers, only 6 were legally authorized to work in the United States. That means 247 people were being exploited in what amounts to modern-day slavery operations disguised as a plumbing business. Here's where this operation gets really sinister. The Orduna Rios couple didn't just hire illegal workers. They systematically controlled every aspect of their life.
The federal complaint focuses on Rochester, New York, but Michigan, Ohio, and North Carolina are also mentioned as places the company operates.
This wasn't just a local Michigan operation. They were running this slave labor scheme across Michigan, Ohio, North Carolina, New York, Tennessee, and South Carolina. They had a nationwide network of illegal workers being exploited in multiple states. When you collect somebody's passport and force them to live in overcrowded company housing, you are creating a system of control that prevents them from leaving or seeking better employment. This is how modern slavery operates. The workers were completely dependent on the Orduno-Rios couple for housing, transportation, and employment. Without their passports, they couldn't travel freely or prove their identity to other potential employers. Now, let me tell you about the payment system that made this operation so profitable for the criminals while exploiting the workers. These people were making $800 to $1,500 a week, while $800 to $1,500 per week might sound decent. These workers weren't getting health insurance, retirement benefits, workers' compensation, or any of the protections that come with legal employment. They were being paid under the table while the Orduna-Rios couple avoided paying payroll taxes, unemployment insurance, and other employer obligations. This under-the-table payment system allowed the Orduna-Rios couple to undercut legitimate contractors who pay proper wages, provide benefits, and follow labor laws. They were essentially cheating the system while exploiting vulnerable workers. When legitimate plumbing contractors have to compete against a company that doesn't pay payroll taxes, doesn't provide benefits, and uses slave labor, it creates an unfair competitive advantage that hurts law-abiding businesses. The financial scope of this operation is absolutely staggering. The Orduna-Rios couple generated approximately $74 million in revenue since January 2022 by systematically exploiting illegal immigrant workers across multiple states.
The complaint claims the husband and wife generated $74 million in their plumbing business that was based out of Michigan.
$74 million in revenue from a business built on slave labor. That is not entrepreneurship. That is criminal exploitation. Every dollar of that money was made by cheating the system and exploiting vulnerable people. They had customers across 6 states, all being served by illegal workers who were being systematically exploited. Every legitimate plumbing contractor in those states were being undercut by a criminal operation that didn't follow any labor laws. The couple was living in a $1.5 million mansion in Plymouth Township while the workers were being crammed into overcrowded housing. This shows the massive wealth disparity created by their exploitation scheme. Here's what really gets me fired up about this case. The Orduna-Rios couple was able to undercut every legitimate plumbing contractor because they weren't following any labor laws, while honest contractors, paying proper wages, providing benefits, and following regulations, these criminals were using slave labor.
So whenever you use money that is unlawful and you deposit it into a bank and you manipulate the banking system, that's money laundering. And that's what the government's alleging here.
They were making millions from illegal labor, then depositing that money in banks. They were committing multiple federal crimes.
Former federal prosecutor Matthew Schneider reviewed the 27-page complaint, which mentions investigators interviewing the workers on numerous occasions,
building a comprehensive case against this criminal operation. The 27-page complaint shows the extensive evidence they gathered about this systematic exploitation. Think about the legitimate plumbing contractors who lost jobs because they couldn't compete with the company that was using slave labor, American workers and legal immigrants who couldn't get jobs because these criminals were exploiting illegal workers for below market wages. What the Orduna-Rios couple was running wasn't just illegal employment, it was human trafficking. When you confiscate passports, control housing, and restrict workers' freedom of movement, you're engaging in modern slavery.
In this case, you've got physical evidence, statement of the people arrested, and the government was listening to the communications of the defendants.
The company headquarters is in Plymouth Township, where we stopped to see if anyone was present who could speak to the allegations. No one was there.
Also note on Google, it mentions this company is permanently closed. When your business model is based on criminal exploitation, you don't want to face public scrutiny. The workers were trapped in a system where they couldn't leave because their passports were confiscated. They couldn't find a their housing because they were dependent on the company providing accommodations, and they couldn't report abuse because of their illegal status. This case perfectly illustrates how illegal immigration creates unfair competition that hurts American workers and legal immigrants. When criminals use slave labor to undercut legitimate businesses, it drives down wages and working conditions for everybody.
It's pretty crazy how big the operation was, with very little activity that was there.
Every American plumber, electrician, construction worker who couldn't get a job had to accept lower wages because of unfair competition from slave labor operations like this one. The federal charges against the Orduna Rios couple include conspiracy, transportation and harboring unauthorized aliens for commercial advantage, money laundering, and employment of unauthorized aliens. They're facing decades in federal prison if convicted.
Wow. The couple, whose address comes back to this $1.5 million mansion in Plymouth Township, were released Tuesday on conditions after appearing in Michigan Eastern District Court.
They were living in a $1.5 million mansion built on the profits of slave labor. The fact that they were released on bond shows they're not considered a flight risk, but the federal charges they're facing carry serious prison time. This case should serve as a warning to other employers who think they can build their business on illegal labor. America, the Orduna Rios case exposes the ugly reality of how illegal immigration creates opportunities for criminal exploitation that hurts everyone involved. These criminals made $74 million by systematically exploiting 247 illegal workers while undercutting legitimate contractors who followed the law. The workers were victims of modern slavery. Their passports were confiscated. They were forced to live in overcrowded company housing, and they were paid under the table without benefits or legal protection. This is what happens when people are vulnerable due to their illegal status. The $1.5 million mansion where the couple lived while their workers were crammed into overcrowded housing shows the massive wealth inequality created by this exploitation. They got rich by treating human beings like disposable commodities. This case shows why we need strong immigration enforcement and severe penalties for employers who exploit illegal workers. When we allow criminal enterprises to profit from slave labor, it creates unfair competition that hurts everyone except for the criminals. The federal charges against this couple should result in decades in prison and a complete forfeit of their ill-gotten wealth. Every dollar they made from this criminal enterprise should be seized and used to compensate the workers they exploited. Let me know what you think about this. Drop it down in the comment section down below. Smash the like button if you kindly would. Share, subscribe, and as always, guys, I'll catch you on the next one.
Go to the next one. Actually, before we go to the next one, let's check out this video here. It's an illegal. He's caught up in the damn barbed wire. Holy shit, he's stuck in there. Ooh, it's making me feel weird. Look, he's stuck. He's hanging sideways. Look, his legs are up. Like he's got caught up in the barbed wire. Well, because they put in barbed wire. Wow. This is what the military is doing. They're protecting the wall. They're putting barbed wires and shit. Look at this.
All right, that should be good. That should be good. All right, hey, don't go past that. We're good right there. All right, snip it up.
Look at this. That's our military putting up the wall. Actually, they're enforcing the wall. And they put in barbed wire. So that way they can't come in. It seems like an area where a lot of people cross. You know, all they need is a ladder to get over. But now those days are over. The days of the barbed wire is back. That's wild. That is, listen, that's history. Let's keep it moving. Tyson Dela Cruz.
The fact of the matter is we are driving violence down on this city, and we're using every single resource that's available to us. Jails and incarceration and law enforcement is a sickness that has not led to safe communities.
Eventually. 2 shootings just hours after the Christmas tree lighting, steps away as well from the Christkindl Market right here downtown. One of those mass shootings leaving 7 teenagers in the hospital.
It's very disheartening to see this. You know, holiday time, everybody wants to celebrate and enjoy the evening.
America, what the heck is going on in Chicago? The Windy City is feeling more like Gotham City, with the Penguin J.B. Pritzker as governor and Brandon Mohawk Johnson running this city straight into the ground. During an annual Christmas tree lighting ceremony, a family event that's supposed to be bringing joy and community together, people are getting shot up like it's another Tuesday in this urban wasteland. I'm about to get the bat signal out on these fools because crime, murders, shootings, and thefts have turned Chicago into a real-life escape movie. But here's what's really pathetic. Mayor Brandon Johnson said he's angry about the violence, but it's his own soft-on-crime policies that created this mess in the first place. Because here's what nobody wants to admit. These aren't immigrants or Latinos shooting up people. They're too afraid they're going to get deported. It's young kids, and we know which ones.
Yeah, Suzanne, one of those shootings happened just steps away from the Chicago theater here. The scene has been cleared here this morning, but we know new details from Chicago police.
What is up, guys? Tyson Dela Cruz here. Thank you so much for rocking with me. Forget Escape from New York. We need Escape from Chicago at this point. Let me break down what happened at what was supposed to be a joyful Christmas tree lighting ceremony in Chicago. Instead of families enjoying holiday festivities, they got a front row seat to the violence that Mayor Mohawk Johnson has allowed to consume his city.
Coming up and down from the L Street station. And then this, as Robbie said, and you said, Cheryl, almost immediately these officers, guns drawn, were on the move. And this was shortly beforehand. This is when we saw scuffles breaking out. You said you saw people throwing shoes.
It was a violent fight.
Yeah.
On the ground, several people and several different groups of people were fighting violently. It was very concerning.
A Christmas tree lighting ceremony turned deadly when gunfire erupted, leaving 1 person dead and 8 others wounded. This is what Chicago has become under Johnson's leadership, a place where even Christmas celebrations turn into a crime scene.
The witnesses tell us the victims seemed all to be very young, in their teenage years.
The shooting happened at 7:30 p.m. near State and Randolph, just blocks from the Christmas tree lighting ceremony. Families and children were trying to enjoy their holiday tradition, and instead they were witness to the urban warfare that Mayor Brandon Johnson policies have enabled. Think about that. Teenagers and adults getting shot at a Christmas event because Johnson has turned Chicago into a place where criminals feel entitled to commit violence anywhere and any time. Now, guys, let me tell you about Mayor Johnson's pathetic response to this Christmas shooting. He says he's angry about the violence, but this is the same guy who spent his entire career implementing soft on crime policies that created this type of environment in the first place.
Chicagoans who were enjoying our tree lighting ceremony. Thousands of Chicagoans came to express their love for our city. It was peaceful. It was a joyous evening. A vision of the best of Chicago. This is the opposite type of behavior that anybody wants to see. We have too many guns and too many young people who don't value their own lives or the lives of others.
Johnson says he's angry and frustrated, and that senseless violence has no place in our city. Really? Then why have your policies made it easy for criminals to commit senseless violence without consequences?
But I just want the people of Chicago to know that our police department, my administration, we're going to continue to go through this investigation process.
Johnson talks about working with federal partners, state partners, and community partners to keep residents safe. But what about actually arresting criminals and keeping them locked up? What about supporting police instead of defunding them? This is classic Johnson. When his policies fail and people get shot at Christmas events, he expresses fake anger and talks about partnerships instead of taking responsibility for creating the problem. Let me be clear about who's actually committing these crimes, because Johnson and the media won't tell you the truth. These aren't immigrants or Latinos shooting up people because they're too afraid they're going to get deported under Trump's policies. It's young kids. Young black kids. Police haven't released any information about suspects, which tells you everything you need to know. When they don't release descriptions, it's because the descriptions don't fit the narrative that Johnson and the media want to push.
Man, I got one question for Brandon Johnson while he talking about ain't no violence and the crime rate down in Chicago. How the fuck did 8 people get injured and one person got killed?
Criminals commit violence in broad daylight at public events. The reality is that Johnson's policies have created an environment where young criminals feel entitled to commit violence anywhere, including at family Christmas events. They know that there'll be no consequences because Johnson prioritizes criminal rights over public safety. Here's what really gets me fired up about this situation. Where are the suburban white moms protesting against this violence? Where are the activists who protest against ICE when it comes to demanding change from Mayor Mohawk Johnson? In this past week alone, 2 serious violent incidences occurred in Chicago. This Christmas tree shooting and other attacks have terrorized residents, but I have yet to see people demanding change from Johnson the way that they demand changes from immigration enforcement.
What we put in place did not do enough to prevent what we were concerned about from actually manifesting.
Mayor Johnson says the tens of thousands of people downtown made it difficult for officers to move.
Johnson promises to hold those responsible accountable. But what about holding himself accountable for policies that enabled this violence? What about the ability for turning Chicago into a war zone? The shooting has raised concern about safety during large public events. Where are the mass protests demanding Johnson's resignation? Where are the activists camping outside City Hall demanding real solutions? Oh, yeah, that's right. It doesn't fit their rhetoric. This is what I've been saying the entire time. People only want justice when it's convenient for their political agenda. The selective outrage from Chicago's activist community perfectly illustrates the hypocrisy of progressive politics. They'll organize massive protests against immigration enforcement. But when innocent people get shot at Christmas events, just suddenly they're nowhere to be found. There are growing concerns about public safety in high traffic areas, but Johnson's response is always the same. More social programs, more community partnerships, more everything except for actually locking up criminals. Johnson talks about investing in young people and communities, but what about investing in law enforcement and public safety? What about making sure criminals face consequences for their actions? The activists who demand defunding the police and releasing criminals are the same ones who are silent when these policies result in innocent people getting shot at Christmas events. They created this problem and now they won't take responsibility for it. Don't worry, Chicago. Do not worry. Johnson's solution to people getting shot at Christmas events is more shady Safe Street activists and more mental health professionals. At this point, it's like trying to eat soup with a fork, completely useless for the actual problem.
Who knows, if they didn't make that amount of arrests, get that many guns off the street, there could have been many more incidents.
Former Chicago Office of Emergency Management and Communications Director and Mayor Johnson's former Chief of Staff, Rich Gaitis, says the city could continue to put Band-Aids on the situation, but the root cause lies with the parents of these teens at takeovers.
These parents have to be engaged because they're young kids. These are kids that are under 17 years old.
The root cause is that criminals know they won't face any consequences for their actions because Johnson's soft on crime policies. City officials are reviewing security protocols for future public events. But what about reviewing the policies that allowed criminals to roam free and commit violence? What about reviewing the decision to defund police and release dangerous criminals? Johnson's approach to crime is like bringing a social worker to a gunfight. When people are getting shot at Christmas events, you need police and prosecutors, not community organizers and mental health professionals. Chicago has literally become Gotham City under Johnson's leadership. You've got the Penguin, J.B. Pritzker as governor, enabling this chaos from Springfield, and Mayor Mohawk Johnson implementing policies that turn family Christmas events into crime scenes. This shooting occurred at one one of Chicago's busiest areas, known for shopping, dining, and entertainment. Johnson has turned the heart of the city into a place where families can't safely attend Christmas events.
This statement last night,
That's
before we got
wild.
updated information from police, he said 300 juveniles were rioting in the Loop after the shooting. He also said multiple police officers were attacked and injured with mace and stun guns, with at least one officer hospitalized.
The reality is that Johnson has created an environment where Batman would be needed to clean up the streets. Except instead of the Joker and the Riddler, we have young criminals who know they won't face consequences for shooting up people. Here's some free advice that you don't have to pay me for. Chicago doesn't need any more community partnerships or violence intervention specialists. It needs real leadership that will actually address crime instead of making excuses for it. Your approach, Mr. Brandon Johnson, has failed, and innocent people are paying the price. Instead of admitting his policies have failed, Johnson continues to double down on the same approach that created this mess. More social programs, more community outreach, more everything except for actually locking up criminals who shoot people. America, the Chicago Christmas tree lighting shooting in Chicago perfectly illustrates how Mayor Mohawk Johnson has turned the Windy City into Gotham City. When families can't safely attend holiday events without risking getting shot, you know your city is completely failed. Johnson's fake anger about violence rings hollow when his own policies created an environment that enables these crimes. His soft on crime approach has criminals entitled to commit violence anywhere, including Christmas celebrations. The selective outrage from activists who protest immigration enforcement but conveniently stay silent when innocent people get shot shows the hypocrisy of progressive politics. They only want justice when it fits their political agenda. Johnson's solution of more community partnerships and violence intervention specialists is like driving a car without a steering wheel. It's completely useless for addressing the actual problem. When criminals know they won't face consequences, they'll continue committing violence. Chicago has become a real-life Escape from Chicago movie where residents need to flee their own city to find safety. The Penguin Pritzker and Mayor Mohawk Johnson have created an urban wasteland where even Christmas events turn into crime scenes. The city needs real leadership that will prioritize public safety over political correctness. Until that happens, Chicago will continue to be a place where families can't safely celebrate holidays. Let me know what you think about this. Drop it down in the comment section down below. Smash the like button if you kindly would. Share, subscribe, and as always, guys, I'll catch you on the next one.
Thank you for the upload. But who's gonna replace him? You know, who's the next one to batter up? Come on up. You're the next mayor of Chicago. Now, what you gonna do? That's how I feel. I feel like that's how it is. It's just all a game. All right, here's the news feed of what happened there in Chicago. Train of Truth is here.
There's also this deadly riot after a Christmas tree lighting ceremony in Chicago. Gunfire there left a 14-year-old dead. Angel writing, quote, massive crime and rioting in the Chicago Loop area. Multiple
14-year-old dead. Wow.
Injured. Governor Pritzker and the low IQ mayor of Chicago are refusing federal government help for a situation that could be quickly remedied. The people are chanting, "Bring in Trump." All right, well, here's Mike Tobin. He joins us live, reporting on the ground in Chicago. What can you tell us about what went down?
And Jillian, we just couldn't make it through even the tree lighting ceremony without significant violence, as the shocking violence in Chicago just keeps coming. You mentioned that 14-year-old who was killed. His name was Armani Floyd. The coroner said his cause of death was multiple gunshot wounds.
Whoa,
multiple! Was the
multiple.
second of two shootings that evening, just about an hour earlier, right on State Street, about 10 p.m. in front of the historic Chicago Theater. Gunfire broke out. 7 people were shot. Their ages ranged from 13 to 17.
God.
And their shootings followed a trend called
13, 17.
where young people post something on social media and then they swarm an area. Kids reportedly had shown up from southern as well as northern suburbs. The alderman of that ward says the teenagers were rioting. Right now, it's not known what sparked the gunfire. It is not known if the two shootings are connected. Now, Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson again placed blame on the availability of guns.
Can
But
overturn.
He did this time direct some blame at the kids participating in the takeover and seemed to accept some responsibility.
What we put in place did not do enough to prevent what we were concerned about from actually manifesting.
No suspects are in custody. A Chicago police officer was reportedly injured. We're waiting for an update on that officer's condition. Jillian?
Damn, even an officer
Right,
got
that kept
hurt.
it in Chicago for us. Thank you.
So more on this now with Chicago resident Cata Trucks.
The hell's going on in Chicago?
Welcome back here, Cata. Good morning to you. I just want to show our viewers some numbers here, okay?
Damn,
Violent
man.
crime in 2025. Year to date, murders 378, shootings 1,300, robberies 5,200, felonies, theft 16,400. Whether it's the mayor or the police chief, I'd just be pissed off if I saw those numbers. I mean, enough is enough, Cata.
Well, we've been pissed off, and we became pissed off when Brandon Johnson actually took office and, moved to remove police officers from our Chicago public schools. And, we're seeing this violence. We're seeing it being perpetrated with our youth. So we know that there's an issue with youth, and we know that it is starting in the schools. And when they plan these parties and these get-togethers, they get on social media, they get together with their friends, and they're talking about it at school. There was a measure over the summer that was put in place where we had some local officials who were really concerned about the violence, said to the mayor, hey, listen, we need to do something about this. We need to maybe put some mechanisms in place where these young people have to have an adult with them when they're coming downtown. The mayor voted against it. And yeah, they put another plan in place, but the plan that if they had went with the original plan, we wouldn't see this. There wouldn't have been a loss of life this weekend.
Wow.
Cata, Mike Tobin there just reported that the mayor appeared to start taking some responsibility over the weekend, but he did also take pains to point out that all this went down despite what he calls heightened law enforcement presence, 700 additional officers and violence intervention workers that were in the area when all this went down. That message from him, loud and clear, I don't want more cops. That's not going to solve my problems. What do you think of that?
Well, I think that as much as he may not want more cops, I think that more cops are needed. Not only are more cops needed, we need more intervention services needed, but we also need to hold our young people accountable. And that's one of the biggest things that I think that really needs to happen. They need to understand that when they come downtown or anywhere in the city and participate in these kinds of events and cause any kind of confusion, especially where there's a loss of life, then there needs to be consequences.
Yeah, just look at the numbers here, right? From over the weekend, a 14-year-old boy, grazed wound, 15-year-old boy shot in the left thigh,
What?
17-year-old boy, 14-year-old girl, 15-year-old boy, 14-year-old boy, 13-year-old girl, on and on it goes.
They're all
There was
kids.
another story in Chicago that broke
How the hell
over
they
the
getting the
weekend, however, that
guns?
is equally as disturbing. The Secretary of Transportation, Sean Duffy, revealing this on X. All right, here we go.
How are
It's
the kids getting the
devastating that
guns?
a career criminal with 72 prior arrests is now accused of attacking 26-year-old Bethany McGee on Chicago's L train and setting her on fire. This would have never happened as Thug had been behind bars, yet Chicago lets repeat offenders roam the streets. Chicago's carelessness is putting the American people at risk. No one should ever have to fear for their life on the subway. Cata, I don't know if it's the laws. I don't know if it's the judges. Maybe it's both following each other. This cannot be acceptable. 72 arrests.
There are so many extenuating factors in this, but just let me say this.
Please.
I am of the mind that Chicago Transit Authority needs their own police. The violence on our trains and buses over the last 3 or 4 years have been astronomical, and something needs to be done. And I'll be honest with you and tell you, I absolutely am petrified to ride public transportation.
I can imagine. I mean, it only takes one deranged, heinous crime like this. By the way, we don't know if that young woman will ultimately survive. We know she's still in the ICU. Only one thing has to happen like that for people not to want to get on public transportation for years.
That is scary.
Well, it's really bad. And there are some lines where you can also see on Friday, as those young people were returning from downtown, There's video clips of violence on the CTA trains coming from downtown that day.
Oh my God.
And so I just think that CTA probably needs their own police. They need people to enforce the laws because it is really bad.
The kids
Cat,
should
good
not
luck
be
to you, okay?
without a
Appreciate you coming
parent.
on and sharing some of your feelings. Catatrust, a resident of Chicago. Let's hope it gets better.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
I'm Steve Ducey.
I'm Brian
That's
Kilby.
wild.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News
That
YouTube
is
page to catch our
wild.
hottest interviews and most compelling.
Okay, so let's keep it moving with Tyson De La Cruz.
His name is Lawrence Reed. He has been arrested more than 4 dozen times, 9 of those times for felonies.
America, a career criminal just poured gasoline on an innocent woman, set her on fire on a Chicago train, leaving her fighting for her life with burns covering her entire body. This monster had 72 arrests since 1993 and should have been locked up decades ago. But here's what's absolutely disgusting. Mayor Brandon Johnson just called this act of terrorism an isolated incident and claims he doesn't see this as some sort of a trend. But here's what's really sick. While this woman is suffering in the burn unit, Johnson is more worried about protecting his failed policies than admitting his soft on crime agenda created this nightmare. Because here's what nobody wants to say. When you release career criminals 72 times instead of locking them up, innocent people get burned alive on public transportation.
Wow.
It happened again. Arena Zarutska Part 2, this time in Chicago, with a woman started on fire and the details eerily similar.
What is up, guys? Tyson De La Cruz here. Thank you so much for rocking with me. When setting people on fire becomes a quote-unquote isolated incident to these mayors, you know your city's run by psychopaths. Let me tell you exactly what happened that Brandon Johnson is trying to dismiss as no big deal. Lawrence Reed bought gasoline, boarded a Blue Line train, walked up to a 26-year-old woman who was minding her own business, poured gasoline all over her, and set her on fire.
Legal questions surround the criminal record of the man accused of setting the 26-year-old victim on fire. Lawrence Reed is expected back in court tomorrow. An ABC7 record search shows multiple mugshots for Reed on a wide range of crimes, including battery against a social worker earlier this year.
This innocent woman was just going through her phone when Reed approached her and began throwing gasoline on her, so she wasn't bothering anyone, just trying to get home on what's supposed to be safe public transportation.
Perhaps people were afraid to get involved, but what we could say is, even as she was on the ground trying to put herself out and is rolling on the ground, desperately trying to put out the fire, no one came to her aid.
This just shows how dangerous Chicago's public transit has become under Johnson's failed leadership. People are too scared to help victims of violent crimes. When Reed was arrested, you know what? He burned alive. That is it. This wasn't mental illness. This was calculated terrorism against an innocent person using public transportation. Now, let me show you Brandon Johnson's absolutely revolting response to this act of terrorism. Instead of taking responsibility for policies that kept a 72-time arrestee on the streets, he's gaslighting Chicago residents by calling it isolated.
This is an isolated incident. I mean, I don't see this as some sort of trend. And
are you out of your mind? A career criminal with 72 arrests sets an innocent woman on fire, and you call it isolated. This is exactly the kind of gaslighting that makes Chicago residents feel like they're living in an insane asylum.
again, you know, the level of accountability that has to happen in this moment, you know, I trust that the federal level will do its part.
Johnson talks about accountability while completely deflecting responsibilities from his own administration. He's trusting that the federal law will do its part instead of admitting that his catch and release policies allow this monster to roam free. This is classic Brandon Johnson. When his policies result in innocent people getting burned alive, he calls it isolated and blames everyone except himself. Here's what makes Johnson's isolated incident claim so infuriating. Lawrence Reed had been arrested 72 times since 1993, including 9 felonies, yet he served just over 2 years behind bars total. This is the direct result of Johnson's soft on crime policies.
In 2020, He was sentenced to mental health probation for setting this fire outside the Thompson Center.
So this wasn't even his first arson. He had a documented history of setting fires, yet Johnson's administration kept him on the streets.
He's charged with committing an act of terrorism on a mass transportation system. It's never been applied in Chicago and carries a possible life sentence.
Even the feds recognize this as terrorism, but Brandon Mohawk Johnson, calls it isolated. Just 3 months ago, Reed allegedly knocked out a social worker in a psychiatric facility. The state's attorney requested pretrial detention, but the judge denied it and put him on electronic monitoring instead. When he set that woman on fire, he was violating his electronic monitoring. Here's where Brandon Mohawk Johnson's response gets even more pathetic. He actually admits the system failed, but refuses to take any responsibility for being the one who created the failed system.
This is an absolute failure of our criminal justice as well as our mental health institutions.
But wait, this is the same mayor who spent his entire career reforming the criminal justice system by releasing criminals and defunding the police. When asked about specific safety measures, Johnson stopped short of committing to more visible police on CTA, even after somebody got burned alive. He won't abandon his anti-police ideology to protect innocent people. You can't spend years advocating for catch and release policies, then act shocked when dangerous criminals kept getting released to commit more crimes. Johnson created this system, and now he's trying to blame everybody else when it fails. While Johnson is busy calling this terrorism isolated, let me remind you about the real victim, a 26-year-old woman fighting for her life in a burn unit because Johnson's policies kept a career arsonist on the streets.
We would like to thank everyone for their prayers and well wishes as our daughter receives care for injuries sustained earlier this week.
This family is asking for prayers for their daughter who was burned alive on public transportation. They shouldn't have to be dealing with this nightmare because the mayor prioritized criminal rights over public safety.
We are also grateful for the excellent care and support of the burn team at Stroger Hospital.
But she shouldn't have to be in the burn unit at all if Chicago had competent leadership that actually locked up career criminals. Johnson's entire response strategy is to deflect blame to everybody except the person actually responsible, himself. He blames the state, the feds, the mental health system, everyone except the mayor who created the policies that enabled this attack.
I think it's too early to speculate like what that absolutely looks like. But again, the funding from Springfield is the most important thing.
He's more concerned about getting money from the state than actually protecting Chicago residents from getting burned alive.
Without that funding, then none of this will be visibilized.
This, in my opinion, is complete garbage. He could deploy more police to protect CTA tomorrow if he wanted to protect people instead of protecting his anti-police ideology. The timing of this attack is particularly damning. It happened right after several other high-profile violent crimes, yet Johnson claims it's not a trend. When does it become a trend, Brandon? When somebody gets murdered again? Johnson's claim that this is isolated is a complete lie. When you look at the pattern of violence he enabled throughout his soft on crime policies, this attack is entirely predictable and completely preventable.
U.S. Attorney Andrew Boutros described Lawrence Reed as a man with a very long criminal history who has had plenty of second chances until today.
72 arrests worth of second chances, to be exact. This is what happens when you prioritize giving criminals endless chances over protecting innocent people. Reed should have been locked up after his first few arrests, not given 72 more opportunities to escalate setting people on fire. Johnson's administration treats career criminals like victims who just need more social services. The fact that Reed was on electronic monitoring when he committed this attack shows how useless Johnson's alternative to incarceration really is. Electronic monitoring does nothing when you're dealing with somebody willing to set people on fire. The solution to preventing attacks is simple, but Johnson refuses to implement it because it contradicts his woke ideology. Lock up career criminals who've proven that they're dangerous and deploy adequate police presence on public transportation. When somebody has 72 arrests, including previous arson, you don't give them mental health probation. You lock them up before they kill someone. But Johnson's system treats career criminals like they're the real victims. Johnson could flood the CTA with police tomorrow to protect innocent people, but he won't because he's more committed to his anti-police agenda than preventing women from burning alive. He'd rather have terrorism on public transit than admit that his policies have failed. The contrast with federal prosecutors is stark. They're treating this like the terrorism that it is, while Johnson calls it isolated. When your own mayor won't acknowledge that setting people on fire is serious, you know your city needs new leadership. America, Brandon Johnson's response to this horrific attack exposes the complete moral bankruptcy of his leadership, calling the burning alive of innocent women an isolated incident while he refuses to change the policies that enable it shows he cares more about his ideology than protecting people. This wasn't isolated. This was a predictable result of giving career criminals 72 chances instead of locking them up after the first few. Johnson's soft on crime policies created an environment where monsters feel entitled to commit acts of terrorism. While this woman fights for her life in a burn unit, Johnson deflects blame and asks for more state funding instead of admitting that his policies have failed. His refusal to deploy more police shows he's still prioritizing his anti-police agenda over public safety. Federal prosecutors recognize this as terrorism, but Johnson calls it isolated and claims it's not a trend. When setting people on fire becomes routine enough that mayors downplay it, you know your city's going to be destroyed by failed leadership. The solution is simple. Lock up career criminals and protect innocent people. But Johnson won't do it because he's more committed to criminal rights than victim safety. Chicago residents deserve a mayor who protects them instead of making excuses for terrorists. Let me know what you think about this. Drop it down in the comment section down below. Smash the like button if you kindly would. Share, subscribe, and as always, guys, I'll catch you on the next one.
Thank you, Tyson Military, for another great episode. That's a weird one, right? That Chicago case, that burn case. But let's keep it moving because I would like to finish early tonight. I got things to do in the morning. I have actually physical therapy tomorrow morning. So let's go ahead and watch this.
Yeah, the other big story, which is not quite as positive, is what's going on in Chicago. We've been tortured over the last 2 months as President Trump has put in Border Patrol, FBI, ICE officials to try to round up the illegal immigrants that overwhelmed their hotels, overwhelmed their airports. But you had a mayor and a governor who thought ICE was the bad guys. When we realize now, you don't see the mayor having a press conference. You don't see the governor having a press conference because crime is rearing its ugly public face again. And we talked about this, and Secretary Duffy actually put this publicly over the weekend. About this one guy.
In a post, he identified the woman who was the victim in that horrifying burning attack, writing, "It is devastating that a career criminal with 72 prior arrests is now accused of attacking 26-year-old Bethany McGee on Chicago's L train and setting her on fire. This would have never happened if the thug had been behind bars. Yet Chicago lets repeat offenders roam the streets. Chicago's carelessness is putting the American people at risk. No one should have to fear for their life on the subway." This is a really low bar to think that you might be able to get on city transportation and not be burned alive. Obviously, right after this happened, we all knew that he had been arrested some 47, 49 times. Turns out it was 72. It was 72 times.
Yeah, that's crazy.
And not only, and there was premeditation here. He went to a gas station, filled up a gas can hours before, attacked her. She got up, she runs after he throws the fuel on her and then lights her as she's running away. I can't even imagine anything so horrifying.
No, I mean, the laws are, you're right. Brandon Johnson's so worried about ICE there. We need people. We need the National Guard. We need people to protect the good citizens of Chicago. This guy, why is he out? 72 prior arrests. She's burned. She's affected for the rest of her life. Went through so much pain.
Angela, we gotta hold these judges accountable.
Yeah.
I mean, what these judges, how does these judges sleep at night? They think they're being kind to criminals and they're showing a heart to criminals.
What about this 26-year-old girl?
Well, your first obligation is to the citizens obeying the law, not the ones who who make their living breaking the law. And clearly, judging by this guy's actions in some of the still photos, he's unbalanced. And he clearly needs extreme care. And instead, he gets banned from going back to the therapist that he was going to. He has a monitor that he cuts off, and then he burns a woman alive. But that isn't the only place where Chicago had violence. They tried to have a tree lighting over the weekend, and instead a bunch of 14 to 17-year-olds started ransacking the place and started shooting it up. It was a teen takeover. 7 of the injured were kids ranging from 13 to 17. It's crazy.
And one boy was killed, a 14-year-old boy at a Christmas tree lighting. And Donald Trump put out a partial, he put out a truth social. Here's a part of it. In the meantime, Governor Pritzker and the low IQ mayor of Chicago are refusing federal government help for a situation that could be quickly remedied. The people are chanting, "Bring in Trump." He said there were massive crimes, rioting, multiple officers attacked and badly injured. 300 people were rioting, 6 victims were shot. 1 is critical, and 1, the 14-year-old, is dead. And out of the 8 that were injured, 7 of them were children. They were ages 13 to 17.
And after dismissing the
That's
attack on
crazy.
the L train as an isolated incident, Mayor Brandon Johnson of Chicago said this about the riots, the Christmas tree riots.
Incidents like last night set us back as a city, and it evokes fear. Our young people have to understand that they should not attend these unauthorized events that have been advertised on social media. They are extremely dangerous due to the number of individuals that may be carrying weapons, especially semi-automatic weapons. And as much progress as we have made, there are still far too many guns on our streets.
Right.
And of course, the reason that so many people in Chicago have guns is because the city fails to actually protect them. And that so obviously, if the city fails to protect you, you're going to want to protect yourself.
And when you get these forces like the FBI and Border Patrol and ICE in your city, it allows cops to go elsewhere. And that's why so many arrests have gone forward. If you look at the guns in your city, it's not because you don't have strict gun laws. It's because you can't get a hold of them. You can't enforce it. And they like to blame Indiana and bordering states on what's happening in Chicago. Oh, everyone's done hearing it and done dealing with it. How you live in that city, unless you absolutely have to, is beyond me, because you deserve better. And when someone brings in the help, all you get is these Democrats trying to grandstand and run for president. Brandon Johnson desperate to get out of the teens in terms of his approval rating. This is not going to help.
And think about, we're not talking about the most dangerous areas of Chicago. This girl, a 26-year-old, was on a train. She was just doing what most people do in big cities. They're going to and
Minding
from
her
work.
business.
Yeah, and then at a Christmas tree lighting. This is not, we're not talking about drug deals happening in the back alley. This is out in the middle of Chicago.
Hey everyone, I'm Emily Campagno.
Emily!
And Kaylee McEnany on Outnumbered.
All right, Emily, you're talking too much. Let's keep it moving. To another Tyson de la Cruz.
With carrying out a $100 million fraud scheme, distributing more than 40 million pills of Adderall and other prescription stimulants.
America, the founder and CEO of Dun Global, a California-based telehealth company, just got convicted in what prosecutors are calling a $100 million Adderall distribution scheme that illegally dispensed over 40 million pills to patients who didn't even need them. Ruth He and clinical president David Brody turned what was supposed to be legitimate ADHD treatment into a massive pill mill that exploited C-19 telehealth rules to flood American communities with dangerous stimulants. But here's what's really disturbing. They specifically targeted CPAM prescriptions without proper medical evaluations. Because here's what nobody wants to talk about. This case exposes how telehealth companies exploited the pandemic regulations to create sophisticated
Morgan, get this, a California-based telehealth company that prescribed Adderall and other stimulants online is now being accused of being a massive pill distributor for patients who were seeking these drugs. And that website, it is called Dun.
What is up, guys? Tyson de la Cruz here. Thank you so much for rocking with me. This conviction shows exactly what happens when profit-driven companies exploit healthcare regulations to push dangerous drugs on vulnerable Americans. Let me start with breaking news that just sent shockwaves through the telehealth industry. After a 5-day trial, trial in San Francisco, a federal jury convicted Ruth He on multiple counts of conspiracy to distribute controlled substances, bribery, and conspiracy to commit healthcare fraud. This represents the first criminal drug distribution prosecution related to telemedicine prescribing in U.S. history. He was convicted alongside David Brody, Dunn's clinical president, making this the highest ranking corporate conviction in the telehealth industry.
The Justice Department says they raked in more than $100 million by giving internet users easy access to those medications in exchange for a monthly subscription fee.
This wasn't healthcare. This was a subscription-based drug dealing. Adderall and other prescription stimulants were distributed whether or not the patients actually qualified for them. Think about that scale. 40 million pills flooding American communities from one telehealth company that was supposed to be providing legitimate medical services. Now, before we dive deeper on how this telehealth scheme operated, I need to talk to you about something that's going to shock you. While we're watching these criminals exploit healthcare systems, drugs, there's another massive exploitation happening to every single one of us, and it's putting us at risk for identity theft and fraud every single day. Look at this 11-page report showing exactly what data brokers know about me. They have my medical history, my prescription information, my insurance details, my home address, my family members, everything a criminal would need to steal my identity or commit healthcare fraud. And here's the terrifying part. They're selling this information to anyone willing to pay for it. When I Google my own name, look at all these data broker sites claiming to sell my personal information. It makes me furious that these companies are making billions selling our most sensitive data without our consent and making zero effort to stop scammers, fraudsters, and criminals from buying it. Think about it. While Dunn was exploiting telehealth systems to push drugs, criminals are using our own personal data sold by data brokers to commit medical identity theft, insurance fraud, and prescription drug scams. How does it make you feel that your private medical information is being sold to the highest bidder? That is why I'm partnered with today's sponsor, Aura. Aura protects your privacy by identifying data brokers, selling your information, and automatically removing it from these sites.
Jump ahead.
Fraudsters, and you should neither. Now let me show you exactly how sophisticated this telehealth drug scheme really was. Now let me break down the sophisticated marketing scheme that Dunn used to target drug seekers and people who didn't actually have ADHD. They spent over $40 million on deceptive social media advertisements, specifically designed to convince people that they needed Adderall.
Adderall, Ritalin, Vyvanse are all highly addictive, highly addictive drugs. They're being prescribed more than ever.
And Dunn was specifically targeting people who wanted these substances for non-medical reasons. They weren't treating ADHD. They were feeding addiction.
People have been prescribed these medications and, need to be continued on the medications. We've started to run into problems with supply. Because the DEA ultimately controls how much of these medications are manufactured.
The overprescribing by companies like Dunn created supply shortages that affected legitimate ADHD patients who actually needed these medications. While Dunn was flooding the market with unnecessary prescriptions, real patients couldn't get their medication.
There's a lot of reasons, right? So one of it is for cognitive enhancement. And it gives them the belief that they can, focus in better.
They knew their customers weren't legitimate ADHD patients. They were drug seekers looking for easy access to controlled substances. Here's where this scheme gets really disturbing. Dunn paid nurse practitioners around the country up to $60,000 per month to essentially rubber stamp prescriptions without conducting proper medical evaluations.
Prospective patients would just click on a link embedded in one of these ads, and it would take them to a very brief survey. They say it takes about a minute to fill out.
The medical evaluations consist of clicking a link and filling out a 1-minute survey. That is not a medical assessment. That is an online order form for controlled substances. Real ADHD evaluations take hours and involve comprehensive psychological testing.
The company pressured these clinicians to offer these prescriptions to patients regardless of whether or not they actually believed they had ADHD.
They took advantage of emergency healthcare measures designed to help patients and turned them into a criminal enterprise. One of the most shocking aspects of Dunn's operation was their auto refill system. According to federal prosecutors, Dunn enabled an auto refill technology feature where patients could receive prescriptions without clinical interaction for years based on auto-generated emails sent each month. This completely eliminated medical oversight and turned prescription refills into an automatic drug distribution system. The auto refill system was so automated that it issued prescriptions for deceased patients, dead people. When your drug distribution system is so disconnected from medical care that dead people are getting prescriptions, you are not running a healthcare company. You are running a criminal enterprise.
The amount of time that many of these services spend on evaluating patients and actually doing the workup and seeing, is this truly ADHD? That time has really decreased.
Dunn didn't just illegally distribute drugs. They also defrauded insurance companies out of over $14 million by submitting false prior authorization requests and lying about their medical practices, claiming they followed proper diagnosis procedures and utilized urine drug screenings when they actually did none of that. They lied to insurance companies to get reimbursements for legitimate prescriptions. They falsely claimed that non-stimulant medications have been tried without success, when the reality was they were pushing stimulants as first treatment to maximize profits.
The DOJ alleges Dunn targeted drug seekers and exacerbated a nationwide shortage of Adderall, first declared in 2022.
The impact of Dunn's criminal operation extends far beyond the company itself. The scheme was exposed. Approximately 50,000 patients were left scrambling to find new healthcare providers for their medication needs. This shows the massive scale of Dunn's operation and the disruption caused when it was shut down.
The ones that were using this digital health to get their Adderall, first of all, they probably weren't having the right diagnoses in a lot of cases, right?
This means thousands of people were taking powerful stimulants without actually having ADHD.
When you can't get the drug in the amount that you want, having the inconsistent flow can really mess with your brain.
Dunn created thousands of people who were dependent on medications that they didn't actually need, then left them without proper medical support when the scheme collapsed. When federal investigators started closing in, Ruth He didn't just try to cover up the evidence. She attempted to obstruct justice by moving operations to China and trying to flee the country, limiting communications on company platforms and using encrypted messaging apps with disappearing messages. She deleted incriminating documents that showed Dunn was encouraging providers to prescribe Adderall, even to patients who didn't have ADHD. He transferred over $1 million to a Chinese shell company called Make Believe Asia and conducted internet searches for countries without extradition treaties. The Dunn conviction represents a broader reckoning for the telehealth industry, which exploded during the pandemic, but has been plagued by companies that prioritize profits over patient care.
It's a double-edged sword for sure, because on the one hand, it's great that we have more access to care for people who may not have been able to access care before.
It also makes it much, much easier to get medications prescribed improperly.
You can't imagine why a for-profit business that makes their money selling drugs would possibly reduce the time that they spend talking to people to see if they need them.
Dunn's business model was designed to maximize prescriptions, not provide proper medical care. Ruth He and David Brody now face serious federal prison time for their roles in a massive drug distribution scheme. Sentencing is scheduled for February 25th, 2026, and they could receive up to 20 years in federal prison. The fact that this represents the first criminal prosecution for telemedicine drug distributions means it will likely serve as a precedent for future cases against similar companies. The $100 million in revenue that Dunn generated shows the massive profits available to companies willing to exploit healthcare regulation. But the criminal convictions show that these profits come with some serious legal risks. America, the conviction of Ruth He and David Brody represents a watershed moment for telehealth accountability. For too long, companies like Dunn have exploited pandemic regulations to create sophisticated drug distribution networks that prioritize profits over patient safety. $100 million in revenue from distributing 40 million pills to patients who didn't actually need them shows the massive scale of this criminal enterprise. This wasn't healthcare. This was drug dealing with a medical license. The auto refill system that issued prescriptions to deceased patients, the targeting of drug seekers through social media ads, and the payments of nurse practitioners to rubber stamp prescriptions all demonstrate a complete abandonment of medical ethics. The telehealth industry can provide legitimate benefits to patients who need access to care, but companies that abuse these systems to create digital pill mills will face the full force of federal prosecution. Let me know what you think about this. Drop it down
That's
in
a
the
federal
comment
crime.
section down below. Smash the like button if you kindly would. Share, subscribe, and as always, guys, I'll catch you on the next one.
Thank you for that great upload. Yeah, that's crazy. These pill mills. Wow, look at the camera, what it did. Okay. It went crazy, the camera. Isn't that bright enough, I guess? Let me see. There you go. I don't know. It just went crazy. All right, let's go ahead and continue on with the news here.
Fox News alert: President Trump honing in on Chicago after what should have been a holiday celebration turned into a scene of chaotic violence. Hundreds of teenagers swarmed the city's annual tree lighting ceremony, leading to 2 shootings. A 14-year-old boy was killed and 8 others were injured. 7 of the ones who were injured were also teenagers, 13 to 17 years old. This is the Faulkner Focus. I'm John Robertson for Harris Today. The horrific scene is renewing President Trump's repeated calls to help. He posted, Governor Pritzker and the low IQ mayor of Chicago are refusing federal government help for a situation that could be quickly remedied. The people are chanting, bring in Trump. One Chicago resident and activist says she is fed up with how her city is responding.
When Brandon Johnson actually took office and, moved to remove police officers from our Chicago public schools. And, we're seeing this violence. We're seeing it being perpetrated with our youth. As much as he may not want more cops, I think that more cops are needed. Not only are more cops needed, we need more intervention services needed.
Gianno Caldwell here to weigh in just a moment. But first, to our senior correspondent, Mike Tobin. He's in Chicago with more on the violent weekend there. Mike?
Hey, John, it was a big weekend to kick off the holidays here in Chicago, and they couldn't get through it without more shocking violence. Bloodshed at the tree lighting ceremony. That 14-year-old you mentioned, his name was Armani Floyd. He was killed. The coroner ruled his death was caused by multiple gunshot wounds. He was shot near the Dirksen Federal Building, where we cover so many of those trials, and that shooting was the second of 2 shootings that evening. About an hour earlier, right on State Street, about 10 p.m. in front of the historic Chicago Theater, gunfire broke out. 7 people were shot. Their ages ranged from 13 to 17. Now, the shootings followed a trend called a teen takeover, where young people post something on social media, then they swarm an area. Kids reportedly had shown up from southern as well as northern suburbs and the city itself. The alderman of that ward says the teenagers were rioting. Right now, it is not known what sparked the gunfire, and it's not known if the 2 shootings are connected. Chicago
that's
Mayor
so
Brandon
wild.
Johnson again placed blame on the availability of guns, but this time he did seem to accept some blame, and he blamed the kids who swarmed downtown.
Our young people have to understand that they should not attend these unauthorized events that have been advertised on social media.
As an
No
idiot.
suspects are in custody. A Chicago police officer was injured. We're waiting on an update of his condition. And CPD official numbers for the weekend are out. 28 people were shot. 4 people were killed by gunfire. 1 person died from a stabbing. John, back to you.
Mike Tobin for us in Chicago. Mike, thank you. Now to Gianno Caldwell, Fox News political analyst. Gianno, you wrote a book about this past summer, the day my brother was murdered, about your dear brother Christian, who was killed in a drive-by shooting in June of 2022. I mean, this just keeps on happening, and Chicago seems powerless to do anything about it until after it's all said and done.
Yes, and if you just listen to the stats that Mike Tobin just gave, these are numbers that Mayor Brandon Johnson and J.B. Pritzker probably would consider to be a successful, peaceful weekend. These are people who said there's no issues in Chicago, that President Trump's help isn't needed. And these folks are wrong. They're inept in their response, and they're ignoring the realities on the ground, and the people of Chicago are suffering the consequences. If you cannot go downtown, which was one of the safest places in the city for many years, up until COVID and probably before that too, then where can you go? I mean, this is unacceptable. You can't bring your family to enjoy Thanksgiving or the Christmas tree lighting without the potential of being shot. This is insane. And they need to be held accountable, the people that did this, as well as the elected officials who refuse to hold criminals accountable in that city.
It really does seem insane on the surface of it. Can you imagine going to the tree lighting ceremony?
It sounds
at
crazy.
Rockefeller Plaza or Fox Square, for that matter, and have something like this happen? I mean, it's unthinkable. It's possible it could happen. But in Chicago, it's just kind of like, all right, that was the weekend. That's what it's like here.
Wow.
It has become the norm. And what some people don't even know is the Chicago Theater, right across the street from the Chicago Theater, is ABC 7 News. They have a studio ground level, cameras pointed towards that direction. So these kids know that there's a news station right across the street that can capture absolutely everything that they're doing, but they don't care. Why don't they care? Because they've never faced consequences. And that's what happens when you implement laws like the Safety Act in Illinois, which eliminated cash bail, which eased up on a lot of penalties when it comes to many crimes. And it also is the reality that you get when you handcuff the police. They had over 700 police officers in that downtown area, according to reporting. So if you can't fear the police, you don't fear the news stations is clearly taking video, and you come out in mass, 300 kids,
then
what is there to fear?
Yeah,
But they created those environments, and I'm talking about J.B. Pritzker and the Mayor Johnson.
Yeah, and the best that Johnson could do is to caution kids, don't go to these events that are advertised on social media. That's the city's response. Now to this, Gianna, new information on a horrific and senseless act of violence, of course, in Chicago. We've learned the identity of the young woman who was set on fire while riding the city rail system. She's 26-year-old Bethany McGee. She is in critical condition with burns over 60% of her body. Police have charged Lawrence Reed with the attack. He allegedly doused Bethany in gasoline before setting her on fire. Reed has got a rap sheet spanning decades and is also facing a federal terrorism charge. He was arrested, get this, 72 times, many of those times for battery. He has 8 felony and 7 misdemeanor convictions.
That's crazy.
Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy tearing into Chicago's soft on crime policies. He posted, "This would never have happened if this thug had been behind bars. Yet Chicago lets repeat offenders roam the streets. Chicago's carelessness is putting the American people at risk. No one should ever have to fear for their life on the subway." Apparently, this guy was in a mental hospital, but he was deemed too dangerous to be held in a mental hospital. He
too dangerous to be in a mental hospital, so let him out to the public. It's safer.
What did they do? Rather than putting him in jail, they said, okay, you're too dangerous to be in a mental hospital. Back on the streets you go. And then this happens.
Insane. And I write about this in my book, The Day My Brother Was Murdered, My Journey Through America's Violent Crime Crisis. I encourage people to pick up a copy. I write about these activist judges, those who can see that this guy has an extensive arrest record. Apparently, he only served up to 2 years in totality for all of the crimes that he committed, and how they will release these individuals right back on the street to endanger the lives of others, literally creating more victims. This was a preventable situation. Without doubt, this could have been prevented, but a judge decided that she knew best versus what the data really told her, which is this is a dangerous individual who deserved to be in jail. And in fact, he deserved to be in jail before he even came to her. So this is what a lot of people need to know. There needs to be conversation on the soft on crime policies led by J.B. Pritzker, Mayor Brandon Johnson, but also the activist judges who are sending these people back into society and not holding them accountable. Enough is enough. People are tired of this. They cannot have a normalized society that's lawless, but that's what you have in Chicago, unfortunately.
All right, from violence to politics now, Gianna. There was no name calling, no yelling. It was a very cordial meeting between President Trump and New York City Socialist Mayor-elect Zoran Mamdani. But just a couple of days later, the far-left Democrat says that he is sticking to his harshest criticisms of the president.
Just to be very clear, do you think that President Trump is a fascist?
And after President Trump said that, I said yes. And
so you do.
And that's something that I've said in the past. I say it today.
You've called him a despot. Do you still believe President Trump is a threat to the democracy?
Everything that I've said in the past, I continue to believe.
Well, he didn't quite say yes in the Oval Office. Despite those comments, Mamdani sounds optimistic about the future. Listen to this, Gianna.
I'm feeling good coming out of that meeting. I thought it was a productive meeting, and I appreciated that in that meeting it went back to cost of living, cost of living, cost of living. We spoke about things that all of us have been paying attention to.
That's all you worry about, cost of living?
We're establishing a productive relationship.
You kidding me? New York is still worst place to live. If you think about cost of living.
Some pretty gracious words from the president during their meeting that happened on Friday. He said he's been called much worse than a despot, and that he thinks that will change Mamdani's mind once the two get working together. I don't know, socialism, capitalism, the two things
Idiotism.
tend to coexist very
Is it
comfortably.
idiotism?
And I'm wondering if President Trump was just being very gracious in the Oval Office, but he's getting prepared to hammer Mamdani the first time something goes wrong in New York.
No, 100%. But you recognize President Trump is a businessman first and foremost, and when he meets a person in public or in person, rather, he's a very warm guy. Like he wins people over. I've met with him in the Oval Office many times. He's really fantastic, to be honest. But I can't imagine there being a productive relationship with Mamdani calling him these names. What's next, Nazi? How can you work with somebody like that if you truly believe that? If you believe that he's a fascist and all these other things, how could you really work with him? You can't speak out of both sides of your mouths, and that's exactly what he's doing here. So I'm interested in seeing how all of this unfolds, but I'm also very concerned for the people in New York City because his plans are very dark and threatening to their safety. Somebody that wants to abolish prisons, I mean, it's somebody that I would not want in the office of mayor, somebody who wants to defund the police. As again, I've taken on this fight with the Caldwell Institute for Public Safety. Go to caldwellinstitute.org and support us there. But this is something that we cannot have. We cannot have a lawless society, and that is exactly what he represents. So we'll see what happens, but he seems like a very scary figure, to be honest.
You know, it's interesting that, you know, socialism seemed to be, you know, almost like a snowball running downhill in New York City, because not long after Mamdani was elected mayor, Chi Osei, who is a city councilor, decided that he was going to primary Hakeem Jeffries. He's still going to primary Hakeem Jeffries, but people like Mamdani and Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez are saying, no, he shouldn't be doing it. So there does appear to be some limitations here. They don't want to get too far ahead of themselves. And I guess when you take aim at leadership, that's when it really gets real.
It does get real, and they're going to find out very quickly how real it can get, because Hakeem Jeffries, although he is the minority leader in the House, he still has a lot of power and influence as to what kind of resources that can come into New York City. This other individual, a city council member, I believe, he doesn't really have much of any power to do anything. So I think they're better off not biting the hand that could potentially feed them.
All right, well, we'll see. He says he's still going to run against Hakeem Jeffries, and who knows what will happen by that time.
And probably lose.
Well, we'll see. You never know. Gianno, good to talk to you.
You never know, especially with this left.
Exactly.
Very good. Thank you for having me.
See you again soon. Have a good Thanksgiving.
All right, let's keep it moving.
President Trump hitting it off with Zoran the Destroyer, the political odd couple stunning the pundit class that was bracing for a full-on capitalism versus socialism showdown. Instead, Trump and Zoran found some surprising common ground on affordability. And the chemistry between them was, well, undeniable.
Hopefully a really great mayor. The better he does, the happier I am.
Are you affirming that you think President Trump is a fascist?
I've spoken about.
That's okay. You can just say yes. Okay. It's easier. It's easier than explaining it.
Would you feel comfortable living in New York City under a Mamdani administration?
Yeah, I would. I really would. Especially after the meeting. Absolutely.
Why did you fly here? Aren't trains greener?
I'll use every form of transit, and I want to make sure that they're all affordable in New York City.
He's working very hard. For him to be, that's a very long drive. I'll stick up for you.
But don't get it twisted. Days later, and Comrade Z still calling Trump the F word.
Mr. Mayor-elect, just to be very clear, do you think that President Trump is a fascist?
And after President Trump said that, I said yes. And
so you do?
And that's something that I've said in the past. I say it today.
Do you still believe President Trump is a threat to the democracy?
Everything that I've said in the past, I continue to believe.
All right, Greg, what do you think about the meeting?
Well, I think, okay, first off, I had made some predictions before the meeting took place, and they all came true. Let's roll that tape. Oh, they don't have the tapes. It's okay. Clearly, Zoran had learned from Trump. He chose the high ground maneuver, which is affordability. It's on the high ground. You can't come out against affordability the same way you can't come out against common sense, which is what screwed the Dems. The Dems decided that they couldn't join Trump on common sense, so they stuck to the 80-20 issue. Zoran, however, comes out with affordability, and what does Trump do? He doesn't oppose it. He just joins it. Oh, I like affordability too. So he just gets on the same high ground with Zoran, and they kind of just hang out there, and sooner or later you're going to see which one means it, which one doesn't. I think Zoran is kind of in the fog of war right now, and the only ally he has is Trump. So Trump knows that, and Trump bails him out in that fascist thing, which was really, really nice. He said, you know, you were thinking, okay, is this Godzilla versus Mothra? No, it's really Batman and Robin. And we know who Batman is, and we know who Robin is. And when he says, don't worry about it, that was his way of saying, I bailed you out. Also, that little moment there with Trump basically said the word fascist is just meaningless. I don't care if you use it. You can call me it. I don't care, because really it doesn't mean anything. But the other thing, and it's really important, what Trump did that he always does, is he emphasizes the individual and not the group. So he gave credit to Zoran, not as a socialist or a Democrat, but as a winner. He says, I was really impressed by how he won. And I wonder if this was a subtle cleaving, pulling Zoran away from this kind of identity obsession and saying, look, you're now with the big boys. It's not that, the idea of socialism, that's gone. You won, so let's work together. I don't think Zoran's ever experienced anyone talking to him as an individual outside of the identity politic. He's been mired in that. He loves it. But now this guy comes in and recognizes him as a personal achievement, not a political one.
Jessica, why don't more Democrats come into the Oval Office and try to work together on things that they have common ground with Donald Trump?
Well, a few very big deal Democrats like Hakeem Jeffries and Chuck Schumer came into the Oval, and they were greeted with MAGA hats and then AI sombrero videos. So Mamdani got a very different visit to the White House than other Democrats. And I think part of it was that Donald Trump was genuinely charmed by him. There are people who don't like his politics that admit that the guy is, you know, off the charts charismatic and very compelling. And I think that Mamdani came into this meeting with exactly the right attitude, because he knew he had to go down to DC to make sure that New York City, which we are mayor in a month and a half or so, needs all of its federal funding. And he's not going to get the tax hikes that he wants from Kathy Hochul, either personal or on the corporate level. And he needs to make sure that the streets aren't flooded with ICE agents and that we get our money. You know, Trump grinning at him like that was, I don't want to say completely unexpected, but definitely was a picture that I don't think he'll be enjoying as campaign season rolls out, because he is giving up the talking point that New York City is going to be a hellhole. He even said, you know, I think conservatives are going to be surprised by how well things are going to go there. And you saw the reaction online from a lot of MAGA folks saying, wait, I thought that he was a communist. I thought he was a socialist, a jihadist. He sold Elise Stefanik out there pretty bad.
But isn't that what you want, though? Don't you want to put politics aside to solve problems?
Oh, sure. I'm talking about what's going on with you guys. I'm cool with what happened.
But you're mind reading. You don't know what we're thinking.
Well, I know what Todd Starnes is thinking.
Well,
I thought Mamdani was supposed to be a
Hey,
fascist
Taylor.
dictator. What the
Hey,
heck is
Terry,
going
what's
on at the
up?
White
Hey,
House?
guys,
We saw
thanks,
a lot
Mike.
of that online where people thought that they were going to get someone who actually thought that their words mattered, right? So Mamdani
going
has
to
said a
the
lot of things,
news,
and then
more
he
moves.
continued with Kristen Welker and said that he meant them. But Donald Trump is
Yeah,
calling
like
him
3
a
more
bunch of bad
videos and
things,
I'm
and
done.
he just stared at him like how he looks at Satan in South Park.
No offense to Todd Starnes, but I don't think the entire weight of your opinion should rest on one siding of Todd Starnes.
Well, it's not one side. Look, there were a lot. Just why deny it? A
But
lot
I
of
think
MAGA
everybody who
people
knows Donald
were
Trump
upset
knows he's going
that
to
he
go
just
in
said
there
whatever.
and he's going to have a nice, cordial meeting with anybody, and he has before.
This was classic Trump. This is classic Trump. He's charming this guy who hasn't even taken office yet, and he's hoping that this guy will not follow through on some of his radical ideas, hope that he will rethink some of his non-radical ones. And for a movement, Jessica, that talks about no kings, you got Trump sitting there like royalty, and the guy looking like he's going to go get him a Diet Coke. I mean, he looks like the supplicant.
That's true.
It looked like the
It did look like
apprentice to
that.
the senior partner, no doubt. But this is classic Trump. He did this with Barack Obama and Joe Biden during transition. Same kind of meeting. He congratulated Hillary Clinton when he beat her and said, wow, she ran a really tough campaign. She's really tough. He hopes she'll help him in his presidency. Of course, she did nothing of the sort. More on that later. But I think Mamdani would have done better saying no to the meeting. He's reduced some of his credibility among the folks who basically are addled with Trump derangement syndrome and essentially look at Trump and say, the more that he enrages me, the less I should engage him. And Mamdani did the opposite here. I hope they can work together for the good of New York and the good of the country. Trump is not someone who goes by what you say. He's someone who goes by what you do. And this guy didn't even take the reins yet. I have something else here. Imagine if Mamdani had gone in there and said, look, I disagree with things you're doing. Here are the names of the people who have been abducted by ICE and deported unfairly. He did nothing like that. He looked totally cowed and charmed to be there. And you know why that is? Everybody does. If you really wanted to make Donald Trump irrelevant and wish him away, you would ignore him. I have never encountered anyone in 10 years of being of the Trump era who can actually ignore Donald Trump. He has a gravitational pull. He is a magnetic field. Putin comes to Alaska. 2-3 days later, all of Western Europe is there. All of NATO is in the Oval Office. Ashiba comes from, Carney comes. The guy in Starmer comes. All these new leaders come right to the Oval. And Zoran Mamdani did the same thing, exactly what a lot of his voters think he shouldn't have done and that they would never do because they don't like Trump, and he does.
Kennedy.
Well, for someone who's going to Trump-proof the city, he was certainly an adorable little fanboy in the Oval Office. And I actually think it's a good model for how we should treat each other over Thanksgiving. You know, because in the past we have said, don't bring up politics at the Thanksgiving table. And maybe there is a way of talking about things where we find common ground. And never forget, Donald Trump is a populist. Zoran Mamdani, he reached out to voters. The affordability crisis is all about populism with a slightly different label. So, you know, politicians finding common ground used to be how deals were struck in Washington. But everyone in leadership on the Democrat side, they have to demonize Trump. It's the only way to raise money, and it's the only way to win races. And, you know, Mamdani had really, really solid message discipline, and he tried in every way he possibly could to stay in his very narrow lane and find the areas of agreement with Trump. Will it benefit New York City? As someone who lives here, I certainly hope it does. You know, I share that with the president. I think that we should extend that to people that we might have fundamental disagreements with. If they succeed and it makes life better for the majority of people who live within their constituency, then we should hope for that. We should extend that to pretty much anyone who has power or impact over our lives.
That is a great, can I just, it's something I didn't consider, but it's such a great point, is that there are people that root for Trump to do bad, and for Trump to do bad, the country has to do bad. And in this case, I'm happy to be proven wrong on every single thing if we end up with a better country.
That's right. And I was right about the whole meeting. Roll the tape. Click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews.
Keep it moving. Keep it moving.
Let's turn to a headline that is creating some backlash and confusion as the Department of Education left nursing and other professions off a list of, quote, professional degrees in a proposed rule over loans. And this move could affect how students finance their education in the future. There are hundreds of thousands of nurses and soon-to-be nurses impacted by this, as annual loans for new borrowers capped at $20,500 for graduate students, $50,000 for professional students, and a lot of outrage and backlash over this. Let's bring in right now the president of the American Nurses Association, Dr. Jennifer Menzik. Kennedy, I appreciate your time here on Live Now from Fox, and rightly so, there's a lot of conversations happening about this. How does this directly impact nurses?
No, thank you for bringing up this topic. It is so important. And I'm really hoping this is just a miscommunication or a misstep with the Department of Education. But we're hearing from many nurses and many individuals who want to go into nursing, many individuals who want to become nurse faculty and advanced practice registered nurses who are wondering if they should continue with this education. And so with these caps, the way they are proposing them, individuals wouldn't be able to have the access to the full amount of their tuition in many programs. So we're going to see people decide not to go be nurse practitioner. So we're going to see people decide not to go on to be nurse faculty. And this is going to exacerbate a shortage of primary care providers, as well as people who are teaching the next generations of nurses.
Yeah, and you mentioned just of the funding as people going to school for this because it is an
Yeah, it's very
intensive
important, the
process. And if
nurses.
you're a patient, you almost want
If you
to
get a
make
good
every
nurse, because
best
sometimes the
care
nurses are
necessary for
bitches.
this. Are you concerned about the perception as well? Because I know there's a lot of nurses out there that are
There's a
already
lot of
nurses,
nurses that
potentially
are
going back
fucking
to school. Just
fuckers.
the perception from
But there's
patients
some
that
that are really
potentially
nice.
labeling
I
nursing not
grew
as a
like
professional
really
degree. Do
cool.
you think
They
that
were like
hurts the
really cool
profession?
people with me.
No, I think we definitely need to clarify, and I think
And I
we
had
need to
my
make sure we speak
favorites.
very loud and clearly
I
that
had my
nursing is a
favorites.
profession. Nurses are professional, and that we're not going to, tolerate anything less than this. And it's absolutely important to be included in that Department of Education definition, particularly when they've added to that definition that they're looking at graduate versus professional loans, and that the professional loans are those high return on investment. And like, what is more possibly higher return on investment than nursing and advanced practice registered nurses, such as nurse practitioners and faculty? We are short primary care providers in our rural areas. We are short nurses. We're going to have at least 6% shortage in nursing. Now, we have over 5 million nurses, so 6% is a large amount. And we have tens of thousands of nurses retiring each year. We had over 80,000 applicants into nursing programs that were qualified that didn't get into their program, mostly because of a lack of nurse faculty. So we cannot allow this to stand because it's going to have devastating impacts to the nursing profession and to the healthcare
That's
structure
gonna
of
suck
the
for the
United States.
nurses.
Nursing is the backbone of the healthcare system in the United States.
And can you talk a little bit about the timeline if people out there are not nurses or don't know what it takes to become a nurse? Because obviously there are different ways, different institutions you can go through, but there's a lot of nurses that are already nurses that are going to get more letters to their name, obviously similar to what you have behind your name. Can you talk about that, how nurses become into this profession and how they continue their careers through that education process, even while working in the workforce?
Absolutely. I personally got my PhD in nursing so that I could teach over 20 years ago. And that was a 5 years of graduate level education after my bachelor's degree. And that I acquired $100,000 in school loans. That was 20 years ago, and education has continued to get higher. So for those who are advanced practice registered nurses, these are nurse practitioners, CRNAs, your nurse anesthetists, your certified nurse midwives, and CNSs. These are individuals who need master's and doctoral degrees to be able to sit for their certifying exams to be those advanced roles. I would even add then you have the nurse faculty who need doctoral degrees in many instances to teach nursing. Also, I think is lesser known, but there is about 10,000 nursing students right now in what's considered master's entry nursing programs, graduate nursing programs, but that gets them in to be registered nurses. These are people who got maybe a first bachelor's degree in IT or communications, finance, who decided they want to do something different with their life and want to feel like they're fulfilled. And they chose to go to nursing school. And so they're in an entry-level graduate program to be an RN. And we're hearing from those individuals who are scared about potential funding issues with those programs. So we have many entry points for people who want to go into nursing and advanced nursing, and we do not need to limit any of those at this time.
And you mentioned an interesting part of this, and you mentioned kind of the return on investment for some of these loans, but maybe not necessarily about this, but the back end, because if people are nurses and they want to get another degree, it doesn't really work out financially for them, especially with potentially wages. Is there something on the back end, the hospitals or the government can do about that to make not only the schooling important, but the wages on the back end to pay back some of those loans?
Absolutely. Of course, we'd always encourage additional scholarships. There are programs like the Precept Act at a federal level that would encourage nurses to be preceptors for a tax credit. But really what happens is when we limit federal loans, those who are trying to go into underserved areas such as our rural communities and get, for instance, public service loan forgiveness or loan forgiveness because they're working in a rural community would only be eligible for those federal loans. If they did get private loans to help pay for their education, those private loans don't count towards those loan forgiveness programs. So the system is working for nursing, and I would encourage the Department of Education to, to include nursing in that definition before the public comment period. And that public comment period is sometime between December and January. We're not 100% sure, but let's change that definition before we go in there. I'd also encourage everyone to go to rnaction.org and sign our petition. And we have over 130,000 signatures already. And you don't need to be a nurse to sign that petition. It's really important for people to hear how important this is for really the safety and the health of this country.
Yeah, that is going to be my last question about what people can do, because you said this is still not necessarily officially permanent. Can you kind of reiterate that one more time about this potentially changing?
Yep, absolutely. So we're hoping that the Department of Education just doesn't, maybe just accidentally excluded nursing from this list, because the Trump administration has been very supportive of advanced practice registered nurses in this country. So we're hoping before the rule goes out to public comment that the Department of Education actually will update it to include nursing, graduate level nursing, advanced practice registered nurses in this. Now, once it goes to comment period, between December and January, we have 30 days to give comments. The Department of Education, one way or the other, is going to implement these July or the summer of 2026. So we've got some time, but I would continue to make sure we sign those petitions and let our voices be heard through rnaction.org to make sure we get this change in place.
Yeah, it's obviously nurses so vital to the kind of medical system ecosystem there, that is obviously a very important point to make. All right, Dr. Jennifer Menzik Kennedy, I appreciate your time here on Live Now from Fox. Thanks you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much.
Okay, so let's keep it moving.
First, tensions continue rapidly escalating with Venezuela. And anxious leftists in Cuba and Nicaragua who rely on Venezuelan oil are starting to shake a little in their jackboots. Joining me now is Florida Congresswoman Maria Elvira Salazar. She's member of the House Foreign Affairs Committee. Great to see you, Congresswoman. Thanks so much for being here. So the U.S. has just designated the Maduro regime, essentially because of their association with this group, a foreign terrorist organization. That is big news. That kind of puts Maduro, correct me if I'm wrong, but doesn't it put Maduro in the same category as former Panamanian dictator Noriega, who the U.S. went in and got and changed that regime?
Correct, and thank you for the opportunity. Not only Noriega in 1989, but Osama bin Laden. So starting at midnight tonight, Nicolas Maduro and his gang is officially a terrorist organization.
Oh,
and he
shit.
is the head of a terrorist organization, which according to our United States laws puts him right in the crosshairs. We can take him out, we can extradite him, or we can go in and try to finish his regime. So good news for the Venezuelans who have been waiting for years to be liberated, and very good news for the American economy, which I'll explain to you why this is a #1 goal for this administration from the economic standpoint.
But there are some Americans. I mean, I would love to see a change in government. My wife's from Nicaragua. We know how terribly the dictators there rely on Venezuelan oil. But at the same time, a lot of Americans don't want actual U.S. participation in regime change in Venezuela. They would much prefer the Venezuelans to do it on their own. Do you think the pressure that Maduro has received
I don't know. They could
will
do it on
force
their
him to
own.
leave on his own?
Oh, I think Maduro is not Fidel Castro. Maduro is not a brave boy. So now that he has understood that he's on that very nefarious list of the terrorist organization, that the airspace above Venezuela has been closed off and the commercial airlines from the United States are not flying, he's understanding that we're about to go in. He understands that he has been our enemy for the last 25 years. Venezuela, for those Americans who do not understand why we need to go in, basically for three reasons. You're in Fox Business. Venezuela, for the American oil companies, will be a field day because it will be more than $1 trillion in economic activity. American companies can go in and fix all the oil pipe, the whole oil rigs, and everything that has to do with the Venezuelan petroleum companies, or everything that has to do with oil and the derivatives. Number two, Venezuela has been the launching pad, the hub for our enemies, the Iranian, Hezbollah, Hamas, the Cubans, the Nicaraguans, people that hate the United States. And the only thing they want to do is do harm to us and to our young Americans. And number three, he is the head of the Suns cartel, which is one of the transnational criminal organizations. In 2020, Nicolas Maduro was indicted by a federal grand jury for drug trafficking, and he is the head of the Suns cartel. So right there, the economy, security, and politically speaking, we're going to be doing a favor to us, to our children, to our economy, to our oil companies, to be able to liberate, and to the Venezuelans that they do want to be free.
Well,
On
no
top
doubt,
of that,
no doubt
Maduro
it's going to
signed
be
an
no
agreement.
doubt it's going to be good for Venezuela to be rid of this guy and the regime. But again, you use the phrase when we go in. What exactly does that mean? I mean, for example, the military in Venezuela, even though they're paid hoodlums for the most part, they still may be willing to fight to hold on to power. I mean, what happens if they don't leave peacefully?
I don't think they're going to, because last year, the Venezuelans under Maria Corina Machado and the opposition forces, they held elections, presidential elections. And those elections reflected and they showed that 80% of the Venezuelans, including the military, voted against the Maduro regime. So we know, we have information that maybe the top echelon of the military forces in Venezuela may be with Maduro, and they're going to flee with him. But the middle and lower ranks are with the opposition. We're talking about that this is going to be very similar to Panama. That I was there, I was a news reporter, and I remember when the Marines were walking in and the Panamanians girls were asking them to marry them. So I think it's very similar.
Yeah, no, I remember well. I was there in just after it. It kind of bled into 1990. It started in late December of 1989, bled into 1990, and I went in January, and it was remarkable how receptive the Panamanians were to the change, and it's been a relatively peaceful country since. But the transition. Correct. I mean, Maria is a wonderful woman, the opposition leader. She's fantastic. But how will that transition take place? Will there be a snap election after he flees, or what?
Well, she has and I've spoken to her extensively. They have a 100-day plan that they have shared with the White House. They are prepared. She knows what she's doing. I mean, they have been at this for 25 years. Like I said, 90% of the Venezuelan people, plus the 8 million Venezuelans who have fled, they want to come back. This is going to be a very major success and a success story, not only for them, but for us. And I salute President Trump for having the fortitude, the courage, the political vision to be doing this, because Maduro is the head of a transnational criminal organization. Yeah. Maduro is not the legitimate president of the country. So we're not invading a sovereign country that has a free and fair elected democratic president. No, this guy is a thug, and he's good friends with Hezbollah. They are giving uranium to Hamas and to Iran and to North Korea and to Cuba and to Nicaragua. Come on, it's time for the United States to do what we need to do. And thank God that Trump is doing it. And I'm telling you that these people, the Venezuelans, have the largest reserves of oil in the world, more than Saudi Arabia. We're talking about this is going to be a windfall for us when it comes to fossil fuels.
Well, and again, it's
Wow.
the actual transition that a lot of Americans are a little wary about, because of the fact
Venezuela
that
and Guyana
always has unintended consequences. Getting rid of this regime is
all about the oil.
it's clear
About the money.
it's going to be good for Americans. And the main thing we talked about at the beginning is the rest of Latin America. I mean, Cuba and Nicaragua is filled with people who hate the regime, who want change. And without that Venezuelan lifeline to Venezuelan oil, those regimes will probably fall. Plus, there is an anti-socialist revolution happening in Latin America. We're going to have a democratic regime change in Chile. Petro in Colombia is about to go. I mean, there are a lot of leftists. Bolivia had a change, kicking the leftists out. So we could see a very free market oriented entire Latin American continent beneath us. And that would be a boon for the United States. Quick last word.
And it will be. And I've introduced, now that you say that, I've introduced legislation called the Americas Act. Now that Democrats and Republicans in the House of Representatives and in Congress, we've come to terms and understood that China, we need to bring those jobs back, maybe to the United States, but maybe nearshoring or reshoring.
Yeah.
Maybe it's time to bring those jobs to Venezuela and to Chile and to Bolivia and to Central and South America.
be nice for
They
them.
happen to be in our backyard. If the Western Hemisphere prospers, we prosper. It's time, and I salute
Yeah, 'cause they could
President
work in the
Trump once
factories,
again,
make
because
clothes,
he's looking
shoes,
back. He's looking in
and
our
we could trade with
hemisphere.
them.
And you just said it
Much
beautifully.
freer trade.
Latin
That'd be so
Americans are
cool.
repudiating
That'd be a good
socialism.
future.
Why? Because
for
they
both.
have lived it. I mean, I'm the daughter of political refugees. Cuba, you just said it. Cuba receives 100,000 barrels of oil for free from Venezuela just to stay alive, just to have the lights, just to have the to be able to breathe for a little while during the day, because you
And
know,
by the way,
Cuba has no oil.
I have to mention
that's why this will go.
your resolution against socialism was a repudiation by the United States Congress, and not just Republicans. You had about a 50-50 divide. There were a lot of Democrats, I think close to 90 Democrats, who voted along with you in condemning the notion of socialism as anything but a disaster for those who adopt it.
Yeah, but the other 100 did not.
That's
and my
true.
resolution
That's
was
true.
very simple, was clear.
Yeah.
We were only denouncing the horrors of socialism. And I'm talking about Western Hemisphere only. I'm talking about Stalin and Mao and Lenin. I'm talking about the 100 million people dead because of that nefarious ideology. And that 100 members of the Democratic Party in the United States Congress at the federal level did not dare to repudiate the horrors of socialism. What does that tell you? That they may agree with it?
I prefer to look on the positive side of this, Congresswoman, that in fact, half of the Democrats are not willing to go down that socialist route, because it's looked for the past couple of months like many a majority were, but it's not quite a majority. It's just barely a majority that are willing to go down that route.
In this case,
quick last word, very quickly.
In this case, I am not willing to give them the benefit of the doubt. Do you know why?
I figured.
Because unfortunately, in every political organization throughout history, French Revolution, the Iranian Revolution, the Sandinista Revolution, unfortunately, when you have such an active left wing, that will always eat up the middle and the more conservatives. And that is what my big fear within the Democratic Party. Be careful that very, very active left-wing side of the party will eat up everybody else.
Believe me, we're aware of it here in New York City after what just happened in the election a couple of weeks ago. Congresswoman, great to see you. Thank you so much for being here. Really appreciate it.
Okay, so we're gonna go on to the last video of the night, and that is reserved for, let's see, who would it be reserved for? No other than Tyson de la Cruz. Right on time.
But I also wanted to ask you about the investigation into your families. But this is also a part of her congressional.
But if this is what Congress is becoming, where they're always trying to intimidate you, scare tactics, especially in minorities, Black and brown people, then we're going to have to keep fighting for the district.
America, Democratic Congresswoman Sheila Shirkulis McCormick just got hit with a 15-count federal indictment for allegedly stealing $5 million in FEMA disaster funds and using the money to finance her 2021 congressional campaign. We're talking about a sitting member of Congress who allegedly turned hurricane relief money into her personal campaign slush fund while Americans were suffering from a natural disaster. But here's what's really disgusting. This woman won her congressional seat by just 5 votes. And now we're finding out her entire campaign may have been funded with stolen disaster relief money. Because here's what nobody wants to talk about. This is exactly the kind of corruption that happens when Democrats prioritize political power over helping disaster victims.
That's crazy.
Serious charges filed against Florida Democrat Representative Sheila Shirkulis McCormick, accusing her of stealing millions of dollars in federal disaster money. But she says that indictment is just to intimidate her.
What is up, guys? Tyson de la Cruz here. Thank you so much for rocking with me. While sitting members of Congress are stealing FEMA money, while Americans are suffering from hurricanes, you know the swamp needs to be drained completely. Let me break down this massive federal indictment that exposes how a sitting Democratic Congresswoman allegedly turned disaster relief into campaign finance fraud. Sheila Shirkulis McCormick is facing 15 counts, including including conspiracy, money laundering, and campaign finance violations. She's facing decades in federal prison for what prosecutors describe as a systematic scheme to steal taxpayer money meant for disaster victims and used it to buy her way into Congress. This isn't just campaign finance violations. This is theft from Americans who needed help after natural disasters.
Tonight, a federal grand jury indicting Congresswoman Sheila Sherfilis McCormick and several associates, accusing them of stealing millions in federal disaster funds, laundering the money, and using part of it to support her 2021 congressional campaign.
The federal grand jury indicted not just McCormick, but several other associates, showing this was a coordinated criminal enterprise. They're accused of stealing millions in federal disaster funds, laundering money, and using it to support her 2021 congressional campaign. Federal prosecutors are alleging that she stole millions of FEMA disaster funds, then funneled that money directly into her own campaign. This sounds way too familiar. This means her entire congressional victory may have been purchased with money stolen from disaster victims. Here's how this alleged scheme worked. McCormick was the CEO of Trinity Healthcare Services, which received a $5 million overpayment from the state of Florida for C-19 vaccination work. Instead of returning the money, she allegedly kept it and used it to fund her political ambitions.
Federal prosecutors say Sherfilis McCormick and her brother Edwin Sherfilis ran a FEMA-funded COVID-19 vaccination staffing contract through their family healthcare company.
When they received a $5 million overpayment, instead of doing the right thing and returning it, they allegedly decided to steal it.
U.S. Attorney General Pam Bondi saying in a statement, quote, using disaster relief funds for self-enrichment is a particularly selfish, cynical crime, adding that they will deliver justice.
The timing of this is crucial. She used the stolen FEMA money to fund her 2021 campaign, which she just won by 5 votes. This means her entire congressional career may be built on the money of stolen money from disaster relief funds. The indictment reveals a sophisticated straw donor scheme where McCormick allegedly funneled stolen FEMA money to friends and relatives who then donated to her campaign as if they were using their own money. But she used some of that money for personal purchases, including a 3-carat yellow diamond ring. The prosecutors have documented how she moved the money from her healthcare firm directly to her campaign, violating federal campaign finance laws and stealing from taxpayers in the process.
Prosecutors, according to court records, say the Congresswoman used multiple accounts and straw donors to move money from the healthcare firm to her own 2021 campaign.
And here's what makes this case
That's
particularly outrageous.
bullshit.
McCormick won her 2021 special primary election by just 5 votes to replace the late congressman. Now we're finding out that her entire campaign may have been funded by stolen disaster relief money.
Prosecutors included texts showing the Congresswoman using straw donors to get around laws limiting the amount of money people can give to campaigns.
5 votes. That is the margin that put her in Congress. And now we're learning that her campaign was allegedly funded with $5 million in stolen FEMA money. Every vote she bought with that stolen money represents the theft from disaster victims who actually needed it.
If convicted, the South Florida Congresswoman could face up to 53 years in prison.
That's essentially a life sentence for somebody who allegedly stole disaster relief money to buy her way into Congress. The fact that she won by such a narrow margin makes this alleged fraud even more significant. If she hadn't stolen that FEMA money to fund her campaign, she might never even become a Congress member. Now let's talk about McCormick's response to these serious federal charges. She's claiming the indictment is a sham, and she's claiming she's innocent, but the evidence appears overwhelming. She says that she's innocent, but federal prosecutors don't bring a 15-count indictment without substantial evidence. The text messages, financial records, and witness testimony they've gathered suggest this case is far from quote-unquote a sham.
It's an unjust indictment, and it seems like these intimidation tactics have been pervasive.
She's claiming that it's an unjust indictment
Race
and claiming
card.
these are intimidation tactics. But that is exactly what every corrupt politician says when they get caught. The evidence will speak for itself in court, guys.
And I look forward to my day in court so I can prove myself and actually state the truth.
Well, she's innocent until proven guilty, but federal prosecutors seem to have a very, very strong case with financial records, text messages, and multiple witnesses. Now let's talk about House Majority Leader Hakeem Dollar Store Obama Jeffries' pathetic response to this scandal. Instead of
Dollar
condemning
Store.
the alleged theft of disaster relief money,
Democratic Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries said she's innocent until proven guilty.
At some point, I'll issue a statement, but I'm waiting on the opportunity to have a conversation with Sheila.
Dollar Store Obama is trying to deflect and protect his corrupt colleague. But Jeffries has his own problems with Jeffrey Epstein that he doesn't want people talking about.
Well, let me ask you about you, because the White House has been highlighting an email that I'm sure you've seen today that Jeffrey Epstein got in 2013. They say it shows you were soliciting money and dinner from an Epstein. The email was not sent from you. It was sent from a political consulting firm called Dynamic SRG that says, "We are thrilled to announce we are working with Congressman Hakeem Jeffries. Shoot us an email or give us a call if you would like to get involved."
Yeah, of course, I have no recollection of the email. I've never had a conversation with him.
Of course he's gonna
Never
say
met
that.
him. Know nothing about him other than the extreme things that he's
Trump
been
is the bad guy.
convicted of doing. And that's why, I'm just strongly supportive of the effort, backing the survivors to make sure that everything can come out.
Now it's about the
whatever
survivors.
is in those Department of Justice files.
There
Now
it is.
you guys care.
Hakeem Dollar Store Obama Jeffries was soliciting money and dinner from Jeffrey Epstein in 2013, after Epstein was already a convicted sex offender. Jeffrey's Dollar Store Obama claims that he has no recollection, of course he doesn't, of emails and never met Epstein. But his own consulting firm was actively soliciting money from a convicted sex offender. This is the guy who's now trying to defend McCormick's alleged theft of disaster relief money. What we're seeing here is a clear pattern of Democratic corruption where party leaders protect each other regardless of the evidence. Jeffries defending McCormick even though she's accused of stealing $5 million from disaster victims, while he has his own scandal involving Epstein.
What's your response to the recalls from some of your colleagues to step down or resign?
They didn't elect me. It was my district. And so we'll keep fighting for the people and keep working like we're doing now.
The fact that Jeffries is defending somebody accused of stealing FEMA money while he has his own Epstein scandal shows how corrupt the Democratic leadership really is. They protect each other instead of protecting the American people. A potential forced vote on expelling McCormick from Congress is on the table. This is exactly what should happen to sitting members who are indicted for stealing disaster relief money.
Republican Congressman Greg Steube writing on social media, Sheriff-Phyllis McCormick needs to be swiftly removed from the House before she can inflict any more harm on Congress, her district, and the state of Florida.
When you're accused of stealing $5 million, you shouldn't be making laws for the American people. Expulsion requires a 2/3 vote, which means some Democrats would have to join Republicans to remove her. But given the severity of the charges and the evidence prosecutors have gathered, this should be a bipartisan effort to clean up Congress. America, the indictment on Sheila McCormick for allegedly stealing $5 million in FEMA disaster relief funds exposes the depth of corruption in the Democrat Party. This woman allegedly stole money meant for disaster victims and used it to buy her way into Congress by
That's
just 5
horrible.
votes. Her claims that this indictment is a sham ring when federal prosecutors have text messages, financial records, and witness testimony documenting her alleged crimes. The evidence includes straw donor schemes, money laundering through multiple accounts, and personal purchases like a 3-carat diamond ring bought with stolen money. Hakeem Jeffries' defense of McCormick is particularly disgusting given his own scandal involving Jeffrey Epstein. His consulting firm was soliciting money from a convicted sex offender, yet he has the audacity to defend somebody accused of stealing money from disaster victims. Every vote she may have bought with stolen FEMA money represents a theft
Yep.
from Americans who needed help after
Yeah,
a natural
almost 6.
disaster. Republican
Oh my
efforts
God,
to
almost 6
expel her from
million.
Congress are exactly
It's
what should happen. When
5.7
sitting
million. They
members
say, oh,
are
it's 5
indicted for
million.
stealing
No,
disaster relief money, she
5.7
shouldn't be making
million.
laws for American people while
Holy
facing
shit.
53 years in federal prison. This case shows why we need to drain the swamp completely. When Democrats can steal disaster relief money to buy congressional seats while their leaders defend them, the entire system is so corrupt from the top to the bottom. Let me know what you think about this. Drop it down in the comment section down below. Smash the like button if you kindly would. Share, subscribe, and as always, guys, I'll catch you on the next one.
Thank you for that video. It's more than 5 million. It's $5.7 million. Don't forget that's $700,000. That you got to add to that 5 million. So that's why it's 5.7 something that I saw. Let me see if I can bring it up here. Just put this on silent. Let me see if I can find it. Okay, look. All right, look at this amount. I'm gonna make it big. 5 million. You're gonna tell me that's what that looks like is closer to? It's closer to about 6 million. Okay, because that's 5,778,316.45, bitch. And no, it's almost 5.8 million. Not just 5 million. Oh, 5 million. No, bitch. Because don't discredit the $778,316 and motherfucking 45 cents. Okay, don't discredit that. That's all that money that she stole from the taxpayers to fund her own campaign and to get her into Congress. Ain't that some shit? All the shady shit and no accountability. She knows she's been caught and the bitch is caught in the web and she's still trying to squirm her way out. Okay? All right, goodbye. I'm done with the show. I appreciate it. I am so tired. I'm ready to go to bed. But thank you everyone for coming through and watching. I truly appreciate it. And like always, have a good morning, good afternoon, and a good night. And I'll catch you on the flip side. I'll be back tomorrow. Don't worry. 7:30. That's always. All right, guys. Good night.